All right, in this video, we're going to do an X-Space town hall on the flawed Satoshi judgment and the appeal from Dr. Craig Wright in the Copa versus Wright case for the determination of Satoshi Nakamoto. We've got news on from both sides. One side saying that Craig Wright lied. He lied again and said he appealed and never did appeal. And it's another one of his lies. That's some of the Artie Van Pelt, things I'm seeing online about that, saying it's not showing on the docket. And Craig Wright lied again. And Craig Wright saying that he filed his appeal and he sent it to his attorneys, and it just hasn't been docketed yet. So the drama unfolds. This is probably one of the biggest cases of our time, and the determination of identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, and this unfolding this entire new industry of blockchain, where we've got this this one entity that is completely, it's completely changed. I'd say history for the future, for the better. So stay tuned to the end. We'll go ahead and show everybody on the space, little town hall, and get the speakers panel up and hear the sides and all the goings on with this appeal process, because it is so people's high emotions on this thing. You got people are very emotional about money, right? And Bitcoin, the coin side is money. But no one's really talked kind of about the bit side, which is now beginning to start to roll out in this 100-year plan of total Bitcoin adoption, which we're 15 years into. So, all right, so stay tuned to this space, and I will see you at the top. All right, this is Gavin Mehl. Here we go. Okay. All right, y'all. So this is going to be the X space. It's titled Flawed Satoshi Judgment Under Appeal, Analyzing the Errors in the Copa V Wright case. And we've, I've sent it out to a couple of speakers on a panel to discuss this. And I want to just go ahead and premise this from the facts that we have so far, so people can use their own discernment and basically understand what information that we have. All right. So we've got you got two sides of the coin here, and I'm going to share both sides of the coin, both sides of the argument, so people can kind of use their own discernment for what's happening. We've got an appeal deadline in the Wright, in the Copa V Wright case, which is going to be the 5th was apparently the day that it was supposed to be filed. 6th would have been the final deadline to file an application to appeal to the appellate court there in the High Court in the UK. Now according to the Slack channel that Wright hosts on MetaNet, he filed his appeal with a law firm. That was what he'd said that I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, that he was going to be filing on the 5th. And then he went ahead and he posted that on the 5th. It said it was filed. People asked him, well, how do I verify it? And he said, well, in order to verify it, you're going to have to wait till it's docketed. So that's all basically the comments that we really have from him on it being filed. Now, of course, the other side, Mr. Pierce's client, Artie Van Pelt, he's posted a blog, it looks like, or articles stating that the appeal was never filed, and that Wright lied again, and he has a track record of lying according to the court, and he has, that's a very well seated phrase. The court did determine that Craig Wright lied, and so it's not that the court did determine that. So it's well seated to believe that it was a lie, but we don't really have we haven't seen either one. We've got just hearsay on one side, and then we have testimony or a statement from the person that says the appeal was filed on the other. So of course the credibility on the right stuff, people are doubting from the Copa side. Obviously the Copa side, they're doubting all Wright's credibility. Now on the right side, on the people that are supporting Wright, they're going to be they're not doubting it at all. They believe what he said is sound, and the court made substantial errors in the judgment and findings, and that the court found that he lied and created all these forged documents. So these are both sound positions, and I just want to go through some of the errors that we have today and open the space up that we can totally talk about and bring people up and discuss it. So okay, Vince, I see you up here, buddy. How you doing, man? Good morning. Feel free to unmute whenever you like. So let me just break down what I'm seeing on this. Again, disclaimer, non-lawyer, California, definitely not a UK attorney, but I can freaking read the law. I know the law. procedure. And so that's my perspective, but it's definitely not legal advice from what I'm talking about. So please don't consider it any of that. And or financial advice. I'm just basically here to report the facts to you. What's up, Vince?
Hey, good morning, Gavin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, buddy. Good morning. Great day.
Okay.
Hi.
Or good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon there in
um,
Miami, Florida. Yeah.
so, uh, so yeah, so I'm glad you're having this space because I mean, it seems to be the big, hot topic right now. And the thing I find strange is that all these people show up, and I forget some of the names like Diginod and these trollers that come on the BSV spaces, and I mean, why are they on there? I can't figure this out. It's almost like they have this, uh, like Craig is living rent free, to use a cliche, in their minds. I mean, why are they so intent on just trying to convince everybody that the ruling was right and this and that? I don't get it. I mean, do you have any idea, why they're acting like that?
Well, I would be unfair for me to tell you why. I guess I could speculate
Hmm.
because there's a lot of money invested in the, in this determination. Apparently, I guess well, it would probably be a better place to start is what would, I guess a better question would be like this. What would the ramifications be if this case is overturned on appeal?
Oh,
What would
unbelievable.
happen?
Unbelievable. Catastrophic for them. Yeah.
Okay. So now
Yeah.
you see, okay, so it would be catastrophic for them. So potentially what? Why do you believe it's catastrophic? What is their, what would the outcome be?
Just that all the money from BTC would start, or a significant portion would rotate into BSV. I mean, that's obvious. But I guess what I'm really getting at is that do they think that, they're really going to make a difference? I mean, it's futile at this point, in my opinion, in that the people that are in BSV now are really the true believers. They're obviously, yes, we're in for speculation and for number go up also. I mean, let's not kid ourselves as well, but these are the people that are in here now that are hardcore, that are you're not going to convince these people now that, hey, look, yeah, Craig's a liar. I mean, we absolutely know what's going on. So, I guess it's just trivial for them to try to convince these people at this point. I just don't see their point. I guess they can always try, but
Well, let's go. So if we focus back in on the case, ultimately with what's
mhm.
going on, right? So we've got this statutory timeline to appeal, which is officially, I believe it's officially expired now because it would have had to have been applied for as of yesterday. We haven't seen the actual docket been filed yet on whether or not it's been appealed. We believe that it has been because of what Wright said, that it's been appealed. Now, so that's all we can go off. Now, again, like I kind of started off that we've got the opposing view, right? That's saying, oh, he never appealed. There's nothing on the docket, and he lied again. And so that's the opposing view. So that's we've got both sides, right? But I'm right now I can't verify either one. So I wish I could, but I'm going to just base this call on assuming that he's appealed. Now, if he hasn't appealed and he passed that, then this is over. He's got nothing, right? So let's assume that he's appealed until we confirm otherwise. We do know apparently that he's switched law firms. There's other law firms involved. The guy's been throwing around large amounts of money. What, 6 million to the court, another plus all the attorney fees, his own counsel that he retained to do this case, plus all the litigation fees to go on. Plus now whatever the appeal costs are. I think the video I put out yesterday kind of estimated it at probably about £1 million, £1.1 million, just to get this appeal going off the ground. I mean, that's just a loose ballpark on the senior attorney costs, paralegal costs, court costs, other administrative costs. It's probably a good ballpark for him to appeal a case like this. So it's no just roll the dice. Let's see what happens. I mean, clearly the guy's doubling down if he's appealing. I'd say that's kind of the exciting part because I love this courtroom drama stuff. It's like, if you ever watch the TV show Suits, I don't watch TV, but that's one thing I had to watch because I love Harvey Specter. And this is like one of those courtroom dramas unfolding before our eyes. And you got two big giant characters. I mean, these are both titans on either side. They're both financial titans. I mean, no doubt about it. Copa has a massive financial backing, and apparently Wright does as well. He's dropping 6 million here, $1 million there, plus attorney's fees there. I mean, he's dropping, I don't know, maybe 15 million on this case. I mean, I don't even know, right? Huge amount of money, huge. So it's no small. This is no small undertaking at all from what's happening now. Okay, Crypto Spartacus, we got you. I mean, Vagard, I know I've talked. I don't know if we've ever talked before. You're welcome to request up if you want to jump up here on stage. Crypto Spartacus, if you want to request up, feel free to jump up. And so we've got but ultimately this, I guess your question was like, what's at stake? And I think now is probably a good time to just frame my belief on what the appeal grounds are. All right. So emotions aside, and all the hearsay aside, because there's a lot of hearsay. We don't know that we can't confirm whether or not, he actually filed the appeal. We believe so. And I think that's what we got to go off of right now until we see that it has not been filed 100%. And if it has been filed, the grounds are I believe, the first grounds that are going to be brought up are this collateral judgment, the contempt judgment. I know it's not inside the case, but there's plenty of lines inside the judgment itself. It's, I mean, there's lots of lines where the court ruled on the Ager-Hannsen component to this case. And so because, in my humble opinion, because the Ager-Hannsen ruling, he was ruled upon not to have been interfering, not to be a bad actor inside of this case. And then there's a collateral judgment to be found of him in contempt, which is basically his refusal to return any of the documents and any of the files to nChain. This I think will be brought up on appeal, and how that could be what's called a exculpatory evidence. A exculpatory evidence is evidence that is basically dispositive. It could win the case. If they would have had that evidence, then it would have, I mean, that's just what they're going to claim, I would imagine, on appeal. If he would have had that evidence, it would have proved that it would have proved Wright's case. That's what they're going to claim on it. And because they were unable to get it and it was withheld by this bad actor, he interfered with with this case and with their entire, with Wright's entire claim to be Satoshi. I think that's going to be I mean, it's one of those things. Does a little bit of interference overturn a whole case, or does it take a lot of interference? These are arguments that are going to have to be made, and I don't have the answer to them on what the legal standards are for that. So but it's going to have to be reviewed, I mean, I really believe that Ager-Hannsen is going to be a key point. The other things are going to be the experts. I mean, they're going to pick apart each one of those experts on this appeal one by one. Madden to start with, Madden being the center point of the entire case, holding all the cards, for Copa. I mean, if you guys remember, Mr. Madden was brought up there to testify to all these, basically the forensic. I mean, and when we're talking about forged documents here, it ultimately, I don't know if, forged documents in my world is where a person signs a person's name and forges it for them. That's a forged document. That I didn't see that. What I did, maybe there's so many allegations, but it was more about metadata. There was a metadata that had been tampered with on each of these, the entire giant file that was submitted to the court. So when it comes to forgeries, it's like the metadata was tampered with. That's what the court found. Now, everything's been pinned on Wright. He's the one that did all this and spent years of, he had an army apparently of people doing this. That's what the court found. So, that's the ruling. It's really, really not looking good, on the on the trial level according to the judgment. But that's what's got to be looked at on appeal. Was there any abuse of discretion? Is there any reversible errors that can be identified? Casey, who do we have right now that's supposed to be here or missing? Or anybody that we I want to get the truth machine. I invited him up. He's never been on. If he can join, let me I wanted to hear, he wrote a big long article on this, and I would love to hear his comments. Invite to speak. Crypto Spartacus, I'm gonna invite you. Anybody? Where's Mila? Where's all these other people? Okay, I'm sure they'll come in. I invited a bunch of other people as well. But either way, let's so you guys, I invited you up as well. The contention right now is whether or not ultimately whether or not the appeal was filed. Crypto Spartacus, you posted something about from the that was from the the Slack channel. The Slack channel saying it was filed. Basically that's all we have to verify right now, because the docket is unclear. We don't have access to the docket. I cannot get access. I tried many times. I can't figure it out. Yeah, you search the court docket and nothing comes up. So it's just it's, you've got the Bitcoin Defense Fund website that posts most of the judgments that are there, but I don't see anything else posted since then. So that being said, we don't have 100% certainty that it's even been filed. But assuming that it's been filed, because that's what he's claimed, assuming that it has been filed, now we've got to think about, like, what are the standards that have to be met. And in order to actually have a appeal court overturn a case, it's a high standard. You have to show there was a true error, real error in law, where there was completely missed and a fact was misinterpreted. It has to be a total abuse of discretion. It's not just one little thing. But I will say, remember that Craig Wright already appealed once in this case, and that was on the motion to dismiss. Now, what happened was that was on the database rights claim against, I think it was on the BTC core defendants. And they had Craig he basically got a motion to dismiss against him. They dismissed that claim. Craig Wright appealed that, and then the Court of Appeal overturned the trial court's decision, Judge Miller's decision, and that database rights claim went forward. Would have potentially have gone forward if this went in favor for Wright. That's just kind of moot right now, but it just shows precedent at the point of he already did appeal once inside this case. So he's shown a track record that he can appeal. He's shown a track record that he can win on appeal. That, I'd say, is going in his favor right now. So this is not his first appeal in this case. So now we just have to kind of wait and see on what the grounds are going to be. I'm really freaking super interested. I would love to hear. Okay, there's Mila, and she's late, tardy. That's all good. Mila, what are you doing? Get you up on stage. Co-host. What is it? Who do we have? Yeah. Who do we have here?
Hey,
Inside Out.
hey,
Mila.
hey, Gavin.
Vince. Yes.
Hey, Gavin. Can I just interject a quick
Please.
point? So I mean, the notion that we're waiting for the or possibly the the appellate court to overturn, I think that's not exactly accurate. I mean, all we need is something to have the appellate court to send something back to the trial court. I mean, that's what would typically happen. So it wouldn't be, a win in the appellate court would not in reality be a total win, depending on what it is. And I may be wrong, but on this, legally, but I think it would just send it back to the lower court and and readdress it. So for instance, the issue where it was so heavily considered and weighed so heavily on Miller's decision, that Craig had fabricated all this evidence. Well, if it comes out that, Craig really had no control over, the all the evidence that was produced, namely these alleged forgeries, and then it comes out that, Ager-Hannsen was in control at the time of producing all this evidence. Well, then I think that there's something there,
Yeah.
not exactly to get overturned, but to send it back to Meller and say, okay, do you still agree with your decision based on how much you weighed your decision on that, these were actual forgeries and where they came from? You see
Well,
where I'm going with this?
I do. And now sending it back to the trial court would ultimately, I'm only aware of two outcomes that I would be. I don't think they're going to retry the case. So it would be either a mistrial or an
Hmm.
overturned judgment. I'm not aware of another outcome. What did you have in mind?
Well, I mean, yeah, probably a mistrial would be more appropriate,
Okay, a
since it,
mistrial. A mistrial is a
right,
possibility where you
right,
could throw it back and say basically start over, zero. The slate's even, right? Nothing's happened.
right,
Do it. It's a do over.
which right, which for all intents and purposes would be a win, you know. Um, so, but the basic idea is that, okay, if we were to have a trial now, and considering that, Craig was not proven to forged all these documents, and the criminal the criminal aspect goes away, would you have still arrived at the same decision?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Crypto Spartacus, my man, you're up on stage. You followed the case day in and day out. So what's on your mind?
Like yourself, I'm just eager to see what documents are revealed to us, like what it gets published, like the actual documentation of his appeal, just to see what angle he's coming at it from. But I think you've probably got the right impression that it's going to be something to do with the Kristen Ager-Hansen stuff, because I believe it was Kristen Ager-Hansen who chose their defense. He chose their experts.
That's a
So I
huge
mean,
point. That's a huge
yeah,
point. And now I don't. Okay, that was definitely in the testimony from Wright. We saw we saw that he testified that Ager-Hansen was in charge of putting of those experts. He was hired to do that. He was in charge of nChain. So as the CEO of nChain, and also apparently he was the manager of the case. So now the other side's going to say, well, that's poor judgment on Wright's part. He shouldn't have done that. Well, that would be a good point if it wasn't if Ager-Hansen wasn't already found in contempt and a judgment against him. So
typically I would agree with that, but I mean, I would say that a fraud was committed. That Kristen Ager-Hansen was acting as something of a double agent, and that he was committing fraud against Craig, and that fraud is the reason that Craig was unable to present a defense for himself, because his defense and his experts were chosen by someone who was actively engaged in sabotaging him. So yeah, I think that's probably the angle that he'll approach his defense from.
I would say it's a freaking strong one, man, because you got this judgment. It's a collateral judgment in the contempt hearing against Ager-Hansen. Now Ager-Hansen apparently is in jail now, or he's on the run. I don't know, but one of the two. He's either a fugitive or he's in custody. Does anyone know?
I believe he's out. I believe he's free, but I don't think he's in the UK currently. I don't know if they're trying to extradite him back to the UK. I haven't seen that. I'm not sure.
Well, it was a 120-day jail sentence that he was sentenced to. Now, that it's not like I don't know if they're going to extradite him. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but apparently that's what he's required to serve in the UK. But I don't know how that jurisdictional arm reaches to his country. What is he in? What country is he in? Norway?
I believe it's Norway, but
Yeah.
I would say that he will likely just avoid the UK for the remainder of his life.
Mila, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Good
I
morning.
was working late today, so
Late.
I apologize.
Yeah. Apologies accepted. It's all good. Welcome. We're so happy to have you. It's Casey's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday. Yeah, I had a message. I heard they were singing, the kids were singing happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Casey. Nicole. Right on. So Mila, what are your thoughts on what's happening right now? Have you been looking into this at all with what's happening on this? Oh, Craig Mason, I want to add him up there. Oh, also Scott's in the audience. I'm going to add you guys up if you'd like to come up here. Invite.
Great.
So
Yeah,
you're
no,
all
I've had conversations about it, but I haven't been looking into it. I just feel kind of like to do the opposite of what I did last time when all this was active.
BSC
To
Panama. I
just
just added
let it,
you.
let it, let it be, let it go its own way.
What do you mean let it go? This we got to get involved. Yeah.
I know I was, and it didn't influence anything, did it?
Well, it's pretty exciting. So I think the reason I wanted to talk about it is because this case is it is rather earth shaking news. I think the
Yeah.
ramifications that we were talking about, like if it goes back on appeal, and Vince and I were talking about it in the beginning. Now let's just speculate here and have fun. What are the ramifications? A couple other guys joined the stage that I'm you're welcome to introduce yourself. It looks like we got inside 130 UL, and then another gentleman who I'm not familiar with, but feel free to unmute and introduce yourself. And I mean, the question I would propose is like, what are the ramifications if the case goes back on appeal? What would that even mean? What would happen?
I just got to work, so yeah,
Hey, buddy.
I'm just listening at this point. So
Okay, nice. Welcome in.
yeah, you can drop me back down if you want.
Okay.
What's up, man?
Okay, sounds good. Oh yeah. So we love to hear. I know Scott has been following everything pretty closely, very closely. I'd love to hear what he has to say. Also, so is Craig Mason. Anybody who's been really following this closely, it'd be interesting to hear what they have to say on anybody. And I'm not just trying to report one side. Oh, this is the only way to go. I like I said, the other side, the opposition, as I gave the position is the Copa side, is they believe that there's been no appeal filed. And there's a blog from Artie Van Pelt, who is one of Craig's arch rivals, and he says that Craig Wright failed to appeal the UK case, and then I'm not really seeing like any facts to support it or anything like that, other than just because it doesn't show on the docket, other than the fact that it just isn't on the docket. Apparently, I can't verify that docket one way or the other, and it doesn't like show screenshots of the docket. It's not like, oh, testimony by clerk so and so. I'm not seeing any of that. So it's mostly just hearsay that they're saying it wasn't filed. So that's the other side's point, that they're saying he forfeited the case. But Wright on his Slack channel saying the application to appeal has been filed, and that was on Monday. And then some other people responded to that, asked him and said, "How do we verify it?" He said it'll be docketed soon. Something like, I think that's what he said. So let's see.
Yes, and Craig has posted on his profiles that he has filed, so that's nonsense. That has to be nonsense. Nevertheless, yesterday, completely identical profile to his profile that I guess most of us know, the one where his picture is from the profile with a blue background. Somebody has made a completely identical profile and followed me yesterday. And so I was looking at it and thinking, huh, why does it say follow back? I know that I'm following him. So I clicked it and looked deeper into what is this, but the profile was so identical as well with the posts that it has, completely copying, like, wow. But if you look closer at the handle, you see that there is one letter missing, and I believe it was the I. So to anybody who might see that profile, pay attention to the handle.
Well, we know that he's got that profile right now that he's using for his personal use, that he posted that blockchain poem on. That apparently
Yeah,
is
which is a
pretty,
more new one. Yeah.
that, and it does seem like everything's very calculated. There isn't, because I mean, he wrote that poem. I mean, apparently he wrote that poem. I mean, do you think he wrote that just on the fly that day, or was that inspired long before, and he posted that at that specific time? Because it was posted at a very specific time when he was required to post that thing on his profile about not being Satoshi. Remember? It was
Yeah, usually, yeah, having, writing poems sometimes throughout my life, I would say that a poem is something that consists of things that are collected throughout time. And then comes this moment where something might trigger it, So, yeah, that's what I would say about
yeah, it
that.
looks like the triggering event was him having to put on his profile that he's not Satoshi Nakamoto, and that was pinned to his X account. Both of those X accounts. I mean, apparently he's required to do that on all these profiles, saying that he's not Satoshi and following the exact court order. It's a legal notice that he's got to put up there. So he did that, posted that poem, and now ultimately we've got this appeal filed. Now, the way appeals work, I will just go through the way I understand appeals here in the U.S., and that is in federal district court and then state court. Apparently, it's probably going to be somewhat different procedures there in the UK, but ultimately, the way it works here is the first thing that's filed is just a notice of appeal, or in this case, an application of appeal. That doesn't usually, at least here, that doesn't mean that it's setting forth all the arguments. What it's doing is it's providing the notice or the application, and then it's accepted by the court, and then it's going to do set a briefing schedule. Here in California, once the notice is filed, then 14 days later, the usually what's called like a designation of records got to go in, and then I've got to put in all the records that are needed. So I want to put in every single record in the court case, every transcript. I want to label those, and I'm going to have the clerk prepare all those. So then I got to pay the fee for that, and then get those prepared. That's going to be the clerk's transcript and all the records. That's going to be the second step. And that's before all the argument stuff even comes in. So that's usually the next step. And, usually in US, we usually follow the UK, I'm sure, on procedure. So it's probably similar to that. Then after that, then they'll finally set a briefing schedule after the docket is made. Parties have to agree on the docket, stating that what's there is accurate, true, and correct. And then once it's agreed upon, then the court would set a briefing schedule and state that, all right, opening briefs are going to be due on this date. Responding brief is going to be due on this date. Opposing brief, reply brief is going to be due on this date. And then they would have potentially an oral argument if necessary. Appellate courts are usually not even done an oral argument. They're usually all done on the briefing schedule. It can be, the big cases can have oral argument. This one might. They probably will have an oral argument now they think about it on this one. But if you look back at the motion to dismiss that he appealed, that one did not have oral argument that I'm aware of. That just went back on, he appealed that, and the appeal court there in UK overturned it without oral argument. It was just on the papers only. And they identified some error on the standard. And if you remember the standard on that motion to dismiss error, it was I think what Justice Miller had found was he found that there was no way Craig Wright could state a claim for the database rights claim. He said it was not possible for him to do that because of it had something to do with the standards on database rights and intellectual property, which Miller is an expert on. Miller is the leading expert on database rights law in the UK. Apparently, from what I've read, is that he actually when he was an attorney, he has a holding case that went, I guess it got appealed and it became settled law on database rights in the UK. So he knows database rights. He has a track record on it. So when he got overturned on this database rights case, he was wrong on this database rights stuff. It's kind of a big deal on the way it's a black mark, being the leading expert on database rights in the UK, and you get overturned by the appellate court on it. So that being said, there's one, you've got this one case has already been appealed and won inside the same case, inside the same court. So he's got a track record of doing it. Now it's a matter of how is it going to prevail? How's it going to go? So let's see. Vince, what's on your mind?
I'm sorry, I had it on mute here. Yeah, I mean, I look, I'm looking at this as like from a bigger picture type aspect. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. What is the bigger
Oh, okay,
picture?
okay. I'm looking at this to where I know this sounds crazy, but I think that this was somehow, you know, on on Craig's part, somewhat intentional to lose this. And hear me out on this, just because, you have a lower court with one judge making the ultimate decision, sole autonomous decision, um, and you know I think that he left a lot of these things. I mean, look, either he's completely lying about all these forgeries, or, he at the very least knew about them and allowed him to proceed just to be able to have this case appealable. And, you know, the appellate court carries a lot more weight. It's a much more credible court. It's a three-judge panel. I mean, is that the case? I don't know how it is in the UK, but I would assume it's a three-judge panel.
Yeah, it's a tribunal.
Um, right, it's a tribunal, and it would just carry a lot more weight as if an appellate court were to say, yes, Craig is not guilty of this. There's some kind of foul play, namely with Ager-Hansen, and this has to be dismissed and declared a mistrial, and at the very least retried, if not thrown out. And then you can bring in all these other things. I mean, when you introduce Ager-Hansen, again, what Spartacus was talking about was the credibility of the expert witnesses that Ager-Hansen brought in, and the whole thing just stinks because of Ager-Hansen. So, I think that he wanted the appellate venue to be the venue where he gets his win.
Definitely. I mean,
So,
that 100%. Any legal strategist, all right, and I learned from one of the best, any legal strategist, and his motto is, I'm going to do a space with him here soon, 40-year attorney, freaking guy's a legend. And ultimately, he always says, I don't care what they do at the lower court. I only care what I do. It's all about building the record on appeal, because at the lower court, they just do what they're going to do. And like I said, a really good attorney doesn't really care what they do, as long as he has his record built, everything's in the record, and it's all set for appeal. And so if Craig was playing, high level legal strategy on this, then he would be totally building the record on this whole case, not to win at trial, realizing that he's just not going to win a trial, and planning the entire record for appeal. That would be the a winning strategy from the get-go, because you think about the end in mind. I'm going to appeal on this, and I'm going to win on appeal, and here's how. Here's my record that I'm making, and here's the errors that I'm going to point out. Well, we're setting the case for Ager-Hansen for interference on this case. Somehow somebody filed that case. I would imagine that Wright had to have something to do with nChain at that time when they filed the case against Ager-Hansen. Was he still with nChain? Do you know? Was Wright still with nChain when they filed that case?
when
Well,
I'm sorry, when who
nChain
filed?
filed the case against Ager-Hansen,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just thinking that, well, if Wright was still with nChain or had any influence of nChain at that time, right, when they filed it, then that could be part of his strategy.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Right. So we've got.
So, and then,
Go ahead.
mhm. No. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to say
No, I
something
don't have
even
anything.
more on a
I'm.
universal level.
Please go ahead.
And something that again, now getting even a little bit more conspiratorial, on a more existential type level, is that the people that were thinking that and rightfully so, that Craig was going to win the case. They were the extreme speculators, to get in there. Not necessarily that they really even believed or know, how BSV can just change everything. I mean, literally. So, I think losing this case also, And I'm not saying that's the main reason, but I think it's a byproduct, but a great byproduct, that it removed all these speculators out that really don't believe, in number one in Craig, and number two in BSV and what it can do. So now you're left with the people that, again, that really do believe, really do understand, that are totally convinced, and you're not going to shake those people out. So I guess in a way, it's, it would seem like you're going to be rewarding heavily those people, because once it moves, it will move dramatically. I mean, if you look at the plus and minus 2% margins of what it takes to move BSV price 2%, it's like nothing. I mean, really nothing. And then, as you get further and further away from the price, it takes less and less money. I mean, it could literally go from 30 something dollars to hundreds of dollars, just because there are nobody's selling.
Supply.
There are no sell orders. There's no supply. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the definitely the supply is definitely a big issue, because apparently there's only some 5 million available for sell. And I haven't, that was the last time I heard about it, but I would love to get Scott up here, man. You really did a great job at following this case closely enough. If you could come up, buddy, it would be great to hear from you. We haven't had a chance to catch up in a while. 369 BSV. I mean, you really know this thing as good as anybody, if not better. So you're there at the courtroom every day, man. So I would love to hear from you on stage, please. Let me see if I can add you. I mean, if you can, or request if you're available.
I did already invite to
Okay,
speak,
you did.
so
Good. All right.
if you can,
Yeah, if you
will,
can,
I
please
guess.
come up, my man. We would love to hear from you. And so, yeah, but back to the Ager-Hannsen judgment is, you've got this contempt judgment, okay, which has been determined that Ager-Hannsen refused to supply the laptop, the phone, and other relevant documents back to nChain, and then by his refusal was found in contempt for doing so. And by those findings, which was basically collateral at the same time this case is going on, that judgment happened just a few weeks before the Mehl written judgment came out. So I think it was on like 2 weeks before. Yeah, it was actually on, let's see, this judgment was filed on the 3rd. Let's see, it was actually filed in on the 3rd of May, and the Mehl judgment was the 20th of May. So that was when it was handed down. So it was actually before the Mehl written judgment came out. Now let's see, the hearing was on March the 5th. So it was going on basically at the same time. I don't know when it was actually filed, but going on for a while. So I think this is going to be interesting. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This wasn't just done accidentally. I think there's something collateral that's going to be brought up on. This is going to be brought up on appeal. And like you said, Vince, the interference aspect of the Ager-Hannsen part is going to be huge, man. I really, that's my belief of how it's going to go back. It'll be that along with the experts, and if it was because the experts were weak in the rebuttal evidence, if you remember all the experts that Wright had trying to rebut Madden and trying to rebut Rosenthal, his experts, he did not even call them to testify. I mean, that was such a big deal. I mean, it was basically like that when he didn't call them to testify, that was like, I couldn't even believe that was okay. So basically picture it this way. You got Madden's report that's coming in, and Madden's saying all these forgeries and frauds happened. Now Wright's going to have a chance to bring forward his expert to counter that and say, Madden doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong. And all this metadata is incorrect. That would have been Wright's opportunity. But Wright got up on the stand, if you remember, and he says, I wish Scott would come up here and tell me the exact wording, because he probably remembers the exact. Oh, he dropped down. Or did he? Who's that requesting, Mila? If he's requesting, bring him up here, because he would know ultimately there's Satoshi. Yeah, he might know as well. What it was that, the Wright, I believe, got on stand and testified that Ager-Hannsen was in charge of hiring those experts, and they were weak, and they were out of Wright's control. So he did not have strong rebuttal evidence to rebut the Madden report, to rebut the Rosenthal report. And that was Wright's claim. And so therefore, when it came time to call those guys to testify, do you remember? He just said, we're not even going to bring them up. And Jonathan Hoff, for Copa's lead counsel on Cross, he was like thrown back at that point. He's like, oh my gosh, what do I even do? He was literally surprised. He didn't know what to do because he had all this preparation done to do Cross on Wright's experts. And we never got to hear from Wright's experts. They were literally
Actually, that's not quite the way it works, mate.
okay. Please.
Yeah.
fill me in.
And again, I mean, this is why the whole thing was a complete farce. Under cross-examination, you never actually the lawyers who are cross-examining are never going to allow any information out that they don't want the judge to hear. So literally a cross-examination is the biggest pile of poop ever. So what you would really want is Craig's witnesses being asked questions by his own lawyers, because they will then bring out the information that they need. If the fact is they'd come to an agreement in this court case that the witnesses would just simply be cross-examined. So all they would do is just the opposing counsel, the lawyers, would just simply try to discredit the witnesses, literally just make them look stupid. There would be no point in them going on the stand at all.
And is that why Craig waived his time with those witnesses? He literally just folded. He said, I don't even want to bring them up.
Because all they would do is be cross-examined, which means they would be humiliated. I mean, look at what's happened. Look at what's happened to Stephen Matthews. Stephen Matthews was a witness for Craig, and now they're trying to do him for perjury.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what would have happened to all of his witnesses. The whole thing was an absolute load of crap. And one of the things that Craig's lawyers should have done is they should have objected to all of the questions about criminality. So whenever Jonathan Off QC and any of those other lawyers on Copa said, you forged this, didn't you? They should have objected to it straight away, because there's no way that Craig was going to incriminate himself and go, oh yeah, I forged that. That's a fraud as well. That's a forgery. That's a fraud. Yeah, I did all of that. Those questions are absolutely ridiculous because well, one, he didn't do it, and secondly, he's never going to admit to doing it. So therefore, every time they even asked a stupid question like that, they should have stood up and objected. But the fact is, they allowed them to go on and go, you forged this, didn't you? You forged that, didn't you? This is a forgery, isn't it? That's a forgery, isn't it? You forged this. Every single time they should have said objection, objection, objection. There are no allegations of forgery or fraud. There was no allegations, let alone any evidence. So the fact is that what they've done is like what they call it like a wrap-up smear. So they've accused him of all of these forged and forgeries, and then the judge has gone, he's spent all of his life, committing forgeries and frauds, because that's what's being presented in court. It's like, no, they were just questions. He's literally been royally stitched up.
So what do you think is grounds on appeal are? Do you think there are appealable grounds?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, there've been appealable grounds. Like you said, all of those witnesses were discredited. They were not even independent witnesses. They were all on the board of Copa, like that Stephen guy from Square and Adam Back from Blockstream and a whole load of others. Honestly, it was an absolute joke. And then that guy from Zcash.
Well, it's a great point, Sirtoshi, that you bring up. I forgot even to look at that. And I hope that his appeal lawyers will look at that, because you got Zcash. Okay. You got Adam Back was a witness. Remember how they cross-examined Adam Back, and he said on there that Adam Back was the board of directors of Copa.
Yeah.
So that means he's
same with Spyro and that guy Stephen, whatever his name was. Absolute joke.
He testified that he was also on the board of directors of Copa. So those two expert witnesses, how can they be used? I can't see
exactly.
I can't see how that's going to stand on appeal. And then you've got also the what about Rosenthal? Rosenthal was the guy that did the remember Rosenthal?
Yeah, I remember him. I did it. In fact, I can find out.
Rosenthal, he analyzed the latex files, and he said,
"Oh yeah, that's right."
Rosenthal, he was the one that said that the latex files What happened was, and we were following the trial every day, and basically what happened was, is the latex files, the audit that he did, or the expert analysis that he did, was only on one version. It's kind of like saying he did it on Microsoft, but he didn't do it on Apple. He just did it on one programming version. And then remember how Wright was stomping up and down in court saying, this guy, he didn't even follow instructions. I said, make sure you do it on Linux. Remember that? He's like,
Yeah.
do it on Linux. And he didn't do
Yeah,
it.
here we go. I've got it. Yeah. So Arthur, it may or may not have Rosenthal, is what I've got down here. So he said, swore that he'd not seen, watched, or heard anything to do with the trial, but said he was hurt by what Craig had said previously about him in court. and also didn't think that the Bitcoin white paper could have been written in LaTeX, but it could have been. That's what he said.
Is that what he said?
They were his words. Yeah. He said that the white didn't think that the Bitcoin white paper could have been written in LaTeX, but it could have been. He literally offered nothing. Yeah, I mean, it was so funny. And then we've got a Sarah. It was not my intention to mislead Micklejohn. Professor at cryptography and security at the University College London and staff researcher, scientist at Google, described the brand new sealed computer Gavin Andresen saw being unpacked for the key signing as seemed new. And then she also put in her report that the hotel Wi-Fi, its router and wallet downloaded for the signing could have been spoofed, but later admitted that the spoofing she described is extremely complex, along the lines of government espionage, and was most likely wasn't spoofed. And when pressed by Shoesmiths why, if that wasn't what happened, it was in her report, she failed to provide an answer. So she was like, oh yeah, it probably didn't happen. Well, why wasn't it in your report then, if it probably didn't happen? Because what you're talking about is extremely complicated, and both parties who are crypto experts, both Craig and Gavin, to fool a cybersecurity expert like those two, and to fool Gavin, would have just been an absolutely mammoth task, and even then he probably still wouldn't have fallen for it. I mean, the whole thing was a joke, and we've got Patrick. Patrick, they finessed it for me, Madden.
Yeah.
Patrick Madden, 44 years old. He said he's not an expert in PGB keys, not an expert in LaTeX, didn't use the enterprise version of Grammarly to check the document, admitted that Bird and Bird, the opposing counsel, wrote his independent expert opinion for him. They finessed it, had multiple meetings with Bird and Bird to write his report, and didn't want to use an independent personal assistant to help him because he didn't like to work that way.
Now that should not be looked over. Now, I remember very specifically, there's a case that we found inside. Now, I literally, if I was working on this appeal brief, I would hammer on that. There's a case that went to appeal that was actually argued by Wright's counsel on the Madden report. Because you remember, there was a determination like back in December about Madden coming in as an expert, and the argument was, no, I'm sorry, it was at Madden's trial, I believe is what it was. They talked about how Madden that he had to be independent, and there's a supporting case on that was very clear in the UK. It went to, I can't remember what the case was offhand, but it definitely supported that Madden's lack of independence. If he didn't write the report,
that's right.
That's reversible error. Now, people object. I was like, dude, it's not me saying this. I'm not saying this. It's the appellate courts. I don't make this stuff up. This is what the appellate court said on previous cases similar to this. Now those facts have to be argued on the appeal and show why Madden wasn't independent. But like you said,
yeah, and also, I mean, it'll be interesting to see which lawyers Craig uses, because they haven't even voided Mellor's order. Mehl hasn't signed his order. If it's not signed, there's no authority given to it. It literally means nothing. There is nothing there. There's no signature on it. And the reason he hasn't put a signature on it is because, one, he was referring to him as Dr. Wright, which is his maritime legal fiction. And of course, a legal fiction can't create, write, or do anything. And then he's the only one that's calling out Craig as being a fraud and a forger, and calling Stephen Matthews a barefaced liar with no allegations or evidence to back up his claim. That's why he hasn't signed it. He would be absolutely screwed if he put his signature on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, normally when an appeal decision is published, it's not signed; it's just on text, and then there may be a court order that's signed inside the court. We haven't seen anything signed, though. You know, you're
Yeah,
right.
nothing. Yeah. And again, I mean, the judge giving his verdict from the bench. I mean, absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
How about this? I'd like to just talk with this Ager-Hannsen. Now, Mehl, you posted this in the nest there about nChain CEO Ager-Hannsen. I think this is a pretty good little article. It says former nChain CEO Ager-Hannsen sentenced to 10 months of contempt of court for contempt of court. This is on May 23rd. So this is 2 days after this article came out. 3 days after the judgment. It says top 10 highlights: breach of confidentiality. Ager-Hannsen published confidential information about nChain Holding AG on the X platform, violating his duty to protect sensitive information about the company. That's the first one. 2, non-compliance with court orders. Ager-Hannsen repeatedly failed to comply with multiple court orders, including those requiring the removal of confidential information and the delivery of devices for forensic examination. 3 was absence from legal proceedings. Ager-Hannsen did not attend key court hearings and failed to participate in the legal process, showing a disregard for the judicial system. He evaded personal service. Inconsistent communication. Throughout the proceedings, Ager-Hannsen used multiple email addresses, inconsistent, further obstructing clear and reliable communication with the court. Deliberate noncompliance. Evidence suggests that his failure to comply with the court orders was deliberate, indicating a willful disregard of the legal obligations. Then misuse of confidential information by retaining a continuing to use confidential information. He posed an ongoing risk to the claimant's business interests. Lack of mitigating factors. No substantial mitigating factors were presented to justify or excuse his noncompliance, reinforcing the perception of his conduct as irresponsible and intransigent. Potentially false health claims. Oh, he said that his claim for stress-related health to avoid court appearances was not substantiated with the recent medical evidence, casting doubt. So he said he was sick, but he didn't provide any doctor's notes to say that. And then hindrance to the legal process that ultimately says overall conduct, including failure to secure new legal representation and not engage in meaningful conduct with the court, significantly hindered the legal process. So this article pretty much goes through the contempt, the sentencing, the reactions and implications, the broader impact. Case has broader implications for corporate governance and compliance in the digital age. It underscores the importance of adhering to the legal and ethical standards, particularly for individuals in positions of power and trust. Ager-Hansen's actions have not only affected nChain, but have also raised concerns about his dealings in other ventures. So, the conclusion was Ager-Hansen sentenced to marks in criminal juncture and protracted legal battle. It serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of defying court orders and the importance of upholding the rule of law as legal proceedings continue. The full ramifications of this case will unfold, shedding light on the complex interplay of power, governance, and accountability in the corporate world. So Ager-Hannsen judgment was on the 3rd of May. Now, can that be argued on appeal? What are your thoughts? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you've made a straightforward case there. Absolutely, that can be done on appeal. Totally.
Because I guess the grounds would be, one, throughout the judgment, the court ruled countless time about Ager-Hannsen throughout this judgment, and I think I went through it, and it was like he's mentioned in this judgment. I have to check. It was a lot, dude. I should do another search. He's mentioned a lot of this judgment. If you do a Control F find for Ager-Hannsen, it's Ager-Hansen, I think, in the judgment. Let's see.
Yeah, it's because the judge was wrong on that.
Yeah.
And Craig was correct. So yeah, absolutely grounds for appeal.
It could be reversible error. It's Ager-Hannsen. let's see, 46 times he's mentioned in the judgment.
Oof.
46 times. So he's throughout here, and he basically is, he goes through it. He kind of sets the table about the allegations that Ager-Hannsen interfered, right? He's saying the day after this mock trial. Remember the mock trial where Ager-Hannsen was wearing the wig?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in here. So I mean, these things that are found in the judgment, they're appealable. They set the record for appeal. He can't just make up new stuff that the court didn't find on. That's the thing. He's got to be in here, and there has to be determinations about this. And the ultimate determination about Ager-Hannsen is that he was not a bad actor. That's what the court found. Right?
Yeah,
Lied
and
about
that's been proved wrong.
That's been proved wrong.
But the main thing, literally right from the beginning, is literally there are no allegations of forgery or fraud, let alone any evidence. There is none. So the judge has got no right to rule that he forged anything. Literally, there is nothing. There is no evidence.
So how is he saying there's forgeries and frauds if there's no evidence of forgeries and fraud?
Well, exactly. That's why he hasn't signed his ruling, because he could be held liable in his personal and private capacity for calling Craig a liar and a forger, and for calling Stephen Matthews a barefaced liar, because nobody else is. No one is.
Yeah, we've got inside the judgment on the 29th of September, Mr. Ager-Hannsen began a series of postings on X, which claimed to have found compelling evidence that Craig Wright has manipulated documents. So this is a post that the court mentioned in the judgment, paragraph 65, that Ager-Hannsen put on his Twitter, saying that I found compelling evidence that Dr. Wright has manipulated documents with the aim to deceive the court that he's Satoshi. Mr. Ager-Hannsen added that he was convinced Dr. Wright's not Satoshi. And he submitted a whistleblowing report making these points. So does that have any credibility now?
Yeah, it's crazy, mate. Yeah, as to what has actually gone on. So it'll be interesting to see what the appeal court says and does.
Have you been following what we've got here regarding the appeal? It's where it looks like Craig said he did appeal. Now Copa and Artie Van Pelt saying he didn't appeal. Did you see that stuff?
Yeah. We'll there's very little way of getting any genuine confirmation, because it's a private transaction between the defendant and his legal counsel.
Yeah, I mean, all we have is Craig's Slack post, right, saying I appealed.
Yeah.
And then of course Artie Van Pelt posted that blog. He said, "Oh, he didn't appeal. It's another lie. It's another lie."
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I mean, that's the first thing that if I was Craig's lawyers, that's the first thing I'd put on there is there's no allegations of forgery or fraud here, and yet the judges, and also again, look back at Judge Miller's previous judgment. He said that Dr. Craig Wright expended substantial skill and judgment in creating the Bitcoin file format, and it's a maxim in law that he who creates owns. So Craig owns what he created, and the judge admitted that himself. And also, you cannot make a ruling that contradicts a previous judgment. And that's exactly what Mehl did, which again is why he hasn't signed it, because he's literally going against the Ira Kleinman case, where a trial by jury found that Craig was the sole and rightful owner of the Satoshi coins and mined them himself. So who on earth, other than Satoshi Nakamoto, who is the creator of Bitcoin and the author of the white paper and the creator of the database and the network, who is that if it's not Craig? And that's what they've already found. And that was a trial by jury, in a Florida circuit court. Literally one of the highest rulings in law, which is a trial by jury. you know, and his own judgment, his own personal opinion in an administration court that didn't have a jury there, you know, decides, oh no, they must be incorrect. He's got no authority to rule on that whatsoever because it's a personal opinion, and he's contradicting his own judgment in 2023. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then also, you know, a UK High Court awarded Craig, you know, via default judgment, copyright of the Bitcoin white paper, because he, if you were putting a claim forward, you have to prove the claim. And if the whole point of a court case is to try and prove somebody else isn't who they say they are, they have to offer an alternative. Okay, you're saying he's not. Well, then who is? If it's not him, because he's saying he is. So therefore you have to offer somebody else. And there was no suggestions at all about who Satoshi Nakamoto might be. They didn't offer anybody at all. No one.
So here's this is an important part of the ruling here. Now, this is the number 67 back to Ager-Hannsen. So it's talking about how following. So this is where he's building about Ager-Hannsen's interference. He's saying, I understand that Mr. Ager-Hannsen was dismissed and left the UK. I was told that interim injunctive relief was obtained to prevent further disclosure of the allegedly confidential information. He has not played any role in this trial. Thus, he has not had any opportunity to respond to a various series of allegations made against him by Dr. Wright. Furthermore, COPA were anxious to stress that they have had nothing to do with Mr. Ager-Hannsen, contrary to various conspiracy theories exposed by Dr. Wright during his cross-examination. So, is that paragraph right there going to be reversible? I don't know. That it's going to be that's another one, that he wasn't a part of this trial. He couldn't respond to this trial, but we got another further judgment and the injunctions. But the court did rule that the court noticed the injunctive relief was obtained. So he actually ruled right there in 67 that he knew about the injunction against Ager-Hannsen, but he still found that he wasn't a bad actor. So, you know, that actually brings the Ager-Hannsen thing wide in on appeal in paragraph 67. Because
but the whole thing can be appealed. Literally, even the fact that there were no substantial witnesses brought forward, because only cross-examination was allowed. So any credible witnesses would have just been the opposing counsel would never have allowed any serious, you know, independent witnesses to produce any evidence. Why would they? They're trying to win a case. All they're going to do is try and discredit that witness. They're not going to let them say anything that actually damages their case. So they're trying to prove that he's not Satoshi Nakamoto.
That's just
so therefore they're not gonna allow anybody to come in and say that he is.
The way they do cross there in the UK is just I don't like it, man. You know, you're right, because they don't allow you to cross-examine your own witness and build the record. I guess that's all on the papers. And then they
both lawyers, both sides are meant to in a standard trial, both sides are allowed to ask questions to the witnesses. That's why the witnesses are meant to be independent. You have some witnesses who are for, some witnesses who are against, but both sides can ask questions. So the cross-examination is going to completely discredit them after they've been examined by the side that they're for. Whereas that didn't happen this time, which is why it's an absolute piss take. So you were never, ever going to get any information that allowed Craig to prove who he was, because Craig couldn't even be questioned by his own lawyers. He could only be cross-examined by the opposing counsel, which didn't allow him to say anything, and just purely spent, you know, however many days saying, you forged this, didn't you? You forged that, didn't you? Yeah, this is another forgery. That's another forgery. What was the word? You and your whopping lies. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous, you know?
So the back to the Ager-Hannsen stuff, I was told, so we got paragraph 67 that talks about the injunctive relief that was found for against Ager-Hannsen. And then there's one paragraph in this judgment here that was super, I think it was 415. I remember I did a video on it, and it talked about, is this specifically reversible error? Let's go and find it here. Okay, yeah. I agree, Wright cannot plausibly blame Mr. Ager. This is 534. I agree that Dr. Wright cannot plausibly blame Mr. Ager-Hannsen for these images in the so-called white paper or the latex file. That suggestion is fatally contradicted by Dr. Wright's own boasting about the technical artistry demonstrated by those same files set out in Wright 11. So he says that Ager-Hannsen could not possibly be involved in this. That's the finding right there. And he's got there's some of the transcript here. It says, unfortunately, Mr. Ager-Hannsen already demonstrated that he had access to all my things. That's on the test transcript. And it says, then Wright says, no, I did not. What I had done before this is, as I said, how important this was to Mr. Ager-Hannsen. So again, I mean, this is all, the record's built. The record is built. This is all part of the transcript. Was this error? 533, when the use of the Asper's blob file to create the image text in his white paper or latex files was put to Dr. Wright, he veered between claiming that he had achieved this in graphic tablet to blaming Mr. Ager-Hannsen. So, I mean, it's all in the record here. I mean, it's all the roads are leading to blame on Mr. Ager-Hannsen. I mean, it's you know, in his 18th witness statement, you got Bernard exhibited a tweet from Mr. Ager-Hannsen, which set out the screenshot from the report where he was tagged as a fake Toshi, which indicated that under incriminating context and browser history, that the report referred to the context of browsing history to show Dr. Wright has researched topics relating to backdating file and manipulating metadata. So I think it was 416. Was it 415? Oh yeah, here we go. So 416 and 417. Let me just read these two right here. This is the part I think that will be narrowed in on for reversible error. The only point I need to focus on from Dr. Wright's submissions quoted at paragraph 410 above is the submission that Copa did not challenge Dr. Wright's accounts of being hacked. Counsel for Copa responded by submitting this was a bad point. I agree. As counsel submitted, Copa did not have a positive basis to say what Mr. Ager-Hannsen did or did not do. But what was pointed to Dr. Wright repeatedly was that he was responsible for editing and falsifying the BDO materials. The BDO files apparently are separate. So that's going to have to be argued how that was done. The 417. The final point is to make the notion that some bad actor was responsible for the forgery of the documents in on the BDO files does not sit well with clear positive evidence. During the September 23 hearing, Dr. Wright himself was creating a latex documents. Indeed, in his answers on day 5, being cross-examined about 2 particular latex files, Dr. Wright asserted that these documents were planted by Mr. Ager-Hannsen or someone else associated with him. And I've addressed these assertions in 17. And he's ruling that overall, the notion that a bad actor was responsible for these forgeries is incredible. It would depend on multiple bizarre coincidences, the combination of which is completely implausible. So 418, he's ruled on the bad actor claim right there. So I think that's going to come up. I mean, is there something in the nest there, Mila, that you got posted from Creation?
Sorry, somebody just shared the handle to Craig's new profile. That's the profile where he wrote the poem as well.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. The real Craig Wright. Now you know my real account, not what others use. Why don't we get Craig Wright up on stage? Can anyone call him? See how he's.
Yeah.
I would like.
Mate, he'll never come on, mate.
No.
But he'd be foolish to talk about his any legal opinions or anything like that while the case is ongoing.
Yeah. He doesn't want to reveal his strategy, whatever he's doing, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he could easily incriminate himself, and also, potentially be found in contempt of court.
If he came on here and talked about the case.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he probably won't be coming on. So, we'll have to yeah, I guess that's probably not a good idea for him to be on there talking about his court case while it's ongoing, right? I think that actually the court, they told him not to do that specifically in the court.
Yeah.
It sure would be entertaining. Crypto Spartacus, what's up, my man? You got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just wanted to comment on what you just said, that he couldn't really publicly state what his strategy is, but I think there's been certain cryptic ways that he's hinted at it, like that Mortal Kombat video that he posted with the Joker fatality that shows like a false shot, a blank shot being fired before he actually fires the kill shot. I think that is kind of an indication, a cryptic way of saying that he may have actually been trying to win the case on appeal, and that the case itself was just like that first blank shot.
How do you, and can you tell me where was this Mortal Kombat thing posted at?
It was on the Craig Wright, not his personal account, but the one with the blue check on it. He posted it a few months, maybe I think a month or two, maybe a few months before the trial. But it was like this little clip from the Mortal Kombat video game where the Joker performs his fatality finishing move on another character in that video game.
You want to?
Yeah, I remember somebody pointing out that he was kind of very discreetly dressed in some of those colors of that picture that came with the Joker
Just when he
thing.
was dressed as the Joker?
Yeah, he wore a suit that's almost identical to the Joker suit in that Mortal Kombat scene in the last day that he was actually present in it.
The Joker, the purple Joker suit.
The green thing, I think.
Yeah, with the green. Was that put into a meme? Is that what this is? Mila, do you know where that meme is? Is that what it is? A meme?
I remember that Packard, now called Pactoshi, I think, but I think his handle is still Packard, right? He posted an image of that. Yeah.
So you're saying, Crypto Spartacus, that because he's been gagged from saying anything, that he did. Help me understand that. I've never heard this before. You're saying that he.
Well, you wouldn't publicly state what your strategy is, but you might kind of cryptically hint at it so that people who kind of get that cryptic way of saying things would understand what you're getting at. And that's how I interpreted it anyway. At least it was pointed out to me actually after the trial by a friend of mine. My friend Taylor pointed it out to me that that's how he interpreted that as. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing that he posted that months before the trial, and then on the last day of the trial, he dresses up the same way.
So
to me, it's him hinting that this is what his strategy is, even though he can't say it out in the open because you just can't come out and say that.
Do you know where that might be, Mila? If you find it, I would like to see what it says, what it was. It sounds like you're saying it was Mortal Kombat.
I'll post it in the nest.
You can find it? Okay, cool.
Yeah, give me one.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat, that was a video game back in the 90s, I think. So, but what is the relevance of that video game?
I wouldn't be able to say other than that it might just be a clip that depicted something he wanted to convey, that he's going to not go for the kill shot right away, that he'll have a false shot. He's going to fire a false shot before he goes for the kill shot. That's how or at least how my friend interpreted it and pointed it out to me.
Well, that's how, man, dude, this guy, he loves.
I have to admit, though, that, with the little that I know and all of that, just, as an outsider coming in and sort of, as I always say, feeling, right? I do everything by feeling. And so my whole feeling of the whole court case that so many of us were following every day religiously, right? I had this really strong feeling that, of course, I couldn't explain. that there was something to this, that he just sort of let it be. And which then, in other words, would be, you know, like when some people say that, who was it before that said, what's his name, Vincent, said something along those lines, that it was kind of more or less on purpose so that he didn't, you know, win the case, which sounds so crazy. And I can't explain it, but I had that feeling. And so to me, what was strange was that it felt like that, and that people would then point out things like the Joker thing, and that I also was not the only one who, you know, got this impression somehow, you know. I mean, a friend tried to talk me out of that impression the other day and explain something that seemed to make a lot of sense, you know, about that. Well, the only thing that seemed to be left was to, you know, to go for the latex thing, and that would mean that he would have to sign and all of that. And that if he would sign, I'm sorry, my phone is making noise. And that if he would sign, then he would set an example that would be sort of a defeat type of thing, you know, going into the future of how we then do things in the future regarding privacy and this idea of not being able to be cornered, that it shouldn't be a thing that you should be cornered to reveal your privacy in this kind of way, something along those lines, which to me also makes a lot of sense. So, but then it still supports my feeling, right? So if he chose not to do that, if he chose not to, you know, use was the last remedy, I somehow don't necessarily think so. But then I would say that would still be a choice, right? And then also I was told, well, that he was kind of in a way provoking this idea of, you know, all the time mentioning, which is true, all the time mentioning the topic of signing. And then I was commenting, well, but okay, at the same time, while he kept mentioning this idea of the whole topic of signing, then he was also always mentioning that, you know, me having the keys does not prove the ownership. So he was kind of mentioning it all the time as if provoking it, but then always also discouraging it. You know, so that could indicate some sort of game, right? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's pretty an obvious, an obvious psyop with the signing, because that we know that just because I got the keys to your house doesn't mean I own it. That's only one thing. That's only one part of it. I possess your keys. Okay, great. I still have to prove ownership. Just because I'm inside of your house and I got the keys to it, I still got to prove. I am only prove possession. I'm here. I got possession. I still have to prove ownership. That's a whole, and so that's ultimately what he was trying to do with this case, was proving the ownership. Okay, that was the hard part. I think that was the big burden, was this ownership claim that he had to prove over the Bitcoin copyright and the Bitcoin database, which was found that he didn't have, you know, at the trial court level. So yeah, I'll be excited to see when Crypto Spartacus sees that. Now, there is an article that was posted by Truth Machine and Michael. Michael actually, what's Michael's last name? I forget his last name. Michael. Anyways, he was the one that showed me all about this. He wrote a long article on. It's very detailed, and I will post it. How do I post this, Mila? It's going to be how do I post it right there? Or maybe you can do that. Oh, here we go. Requested. Who's this? Speakers. Oh, approved from Crypto Spartacus. Yes.
Sorry, I'm talking with the mic off. I said posted in the comments of the space, and then we
Yeah.
can.
I was wondering, it's on. So let me just direct people to it really quick. And what it says Copa versus Satoshi judgment, why Justice Miller got it wrong 3 days ago. And what he's done here is he's posted all these links to very detailed, like a very detailed, what I would say, reference. And these hyperlinks are hard to do. You've got links to every single thing that happened, including like day one, There's the link to day one. He's got day one, day two, day three, and they're all linked to all the court day hearings that happened, the court documents posted, appendix, and then some good transcripts, paying close attention to the Bitcoin space over many years. And also the court trial leads one to a much different conclusion than Judge Mellor's assertion that Dr. Wright lied, forged documents, and used technobabble in defending against the claims of Copa that he is not Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. So in Judge Mellor's written judgment, a lengthy 381 pages with appendixes, but there are several key mistakes and misunderstandings in his judgment when it comes to the evidence presented and the claims made by Dr. Wright. For one, Mehl remarks on technical babble, which he refers to right out of the gate on page 8 of his judgment, and point 2 of his summary, showing that Mehl is admitting to having a lack of understanding of the technical aspects of Dr. Wright's discussing a trial. Using the word technobabble 10 times in his written judgment cast out of integrity and compliance with the English Court Wales judgment of justice. The technobabble argument is something more at home in places like Reddit and Twitter than an actual court of law. Mehl even uses random tweet comments as evidence in his judgment. Judgment should be done based on merit and understanding of facts presented in trial, and that it's clear that Mehl has admitted to vast misunderstanding of the evidence and explanations from Dr. Wright. Mehl, by asserting Dr. Wright's arguments are technobabble, has demonstrated that he's admitted and is ignorant of how Bitcoin works. So he's gone through a very, very detailed article here, which I really like, appreciate his citations that he's got referencing things. Because when you write an article like this, the hard part is making all your references. So he's gone through, he says, Dr. Wright has a tall task considering many of his qualifications and degrees. And I love to hear from him. I don't know if anyone's ever met Truth Machine. He goes by Truth Machine. Mila, do you know who that is? Sirtoshi.
I think he's in New Zealand, mate, or Australia, one of the two.
Okay. Is he in the audience? He was. I don't know if he's still here, but he was in the audience. It'd be cool to hear from him. He wrote this very detailed article. Someone says, is Craig Wright in jail yet? Banned. I don't see him in the audience. Maybe he's in New Zealand, so he's got like a different side of the world.
I do see a
Oh, yeah,
truth
here he
machine
is.
in the audience,
Truth
and I
machine.
just invited him to speak.
Okay, yeah, he is there.
If he can, who knows?
So Crypto Spartacus back on stage yet? He was trying to come up. He probably had that information when he comes up. It'd be great to hear. I invited Jack. Let's see if he's coming in or not. Hold on. Tufty the Cat said that one of the mix-ups is the database right case is he says there's a few points I would like to correct you on. One is the mix-up that you're making about the database rights case and the file format case. The previous appeal was out Bitcoin file case, not database rights. So I was, Tufty the Cat, attorney David Pierce is correcting me on that, which I admit to being in error about the wording on that. It sounds like, so it was the database rights, not the database rights case, but the file format case. That's the one that went back on appeal. So he corrected me. That was proper. So ultimately you've got two cases that went back. Remember the file format case? That's what was overturned by the appellate court inside this same case. And so he's corrected me on that. And I stand corrected. You got to be able to admit your errors if you make them. I love Tufty the Cat because he and his client, Artie Van Pelt, man, Artie Van Pelt, he loves correcting everything. He blocked me on X, but for whatever reason, one of the things about this legal stuff and all this, man, we gotta distance ourselves from taking it personal, and that's the whole thing. When we just kind of like try not to make this a personal thing. It's not a personal attack. It's nothing personal. We just kind of like looking at it from strategy wise. Then we can embrace this a lot better and be like, look, like, how's this going? Where are we going with this? It's not about me. I'm not involved. I have no skin in this game. It's his fight, and it becomes less personal. So then we can kind of like be more subjective and see where this is going, on this whole case. So who do we have, Mila, up here on stage?
Oh, I'm here. Sorry, Gavin. I couldn't get that video added to the nest. I sent you a message that has the video in it. I just
Oh,
wanted to
nice.
tell you that.
Oh, here we go. Joker uncensored. Fatality 720. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Let me
Yeah, so Craig posted that video a few months before the trial, and the last day of the trial, he wore a suit with the like pretty much identical suit. Obviously, just not as cartoonish, but he wore a suit of the same color scheme as the Joker wears in that fatality.
Ah, I see. So Jokers. Okay. Okay, let me watch this video right now. Ultimately, what it's doing is, let's see. So you're saying that Craig posted this on his X account.
Yeah, a few months before the trial, he posted that. And then again, he dressed like the Joker on the last day of the trial. The last day he was present in trial, in court, he dressed in the same color scheme as the Joker's wearing in that video, which to me is his way of saying, I can't openly tell you that this is my strategy, but my strategy is to go for the kill shot on appeal, not
I see.
straight out
So
of
the
gate.
Joker's first shot is a bang, and it has a handkerchief that comes out and it says bang. Okay. So the Joker is
Yeah.
in a boxing ring with the other side, the opposition, and the Joker points a gun at the other side, and then one of those little flags that come out says bang on it, and then the other side just doesn't do anything. He stands there. Then he pulls out a real gun and a real bullet, and he shoots the guy dead on his second shot, kill shot. And he's wearing this Joker suit, dude. So, dude, you know what, bro? I like your I like the fun. That's a fun, entertaining little video. So, Mila, how do I post that inside of the nest?
You click that thing in the lower corner, the share sign, the classic share sign. And then you're going to see at the top, you're going to have your space indicated.
I've got post this, send direct message, copy link, share via.
Otherwise, you put it here in the comments of the space and I'll pin it.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do it. I'm going to just send it to you.
Okay.
You need to teach me that, please. And I'll, this is a really cool, I'm sending it to you right now. Super, super cool video. Dude, I like that, man. I mean, ultimately, because he's gagged is I think your strategy or what you're saying here, he's gagged. He can't tell you anyone what his strategy is. So ultimately he's got to do some sort of a subtle hint on what he's going to play out on appeal. And he's got this cool little video and he dressed up like the Joker. Was that the day that Scott had a picture with him when he was dressed up like the Joker? I remember Scott had a picture when he was in court with him outside.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude,
he has a picture with Craig
Dude,
wearing that suit.
guarantee, I guarantee that Scott's got some inside information. Maybe that's why he doesn't want to talk on the stage, because he doesn't want me asking him what he knows. Because this guy, he's in there in the courtroom. He's taking the pictures with the Joker suit. Why can't Scott come up here and tell us what's going on? He knows more than we. I think he knows a lot more than we think. Maybe that's why he doesn't want to talk, because he's like, oh, I don't want to talk about. I'm not allowed to talk about certain things, and maybe that's why he's keeping quiet. But he said it looks like he's listening, and he doesn't want to come up here. So it'd be cool to hear what he has to say. He was taking a picture with the Joker suit, him and Craig high-fiving there outside the courtroom, huh? With the with the Joker suit on. Oh man. Sirtoshi, what's going to happen next, buddy?
Well, I mean, again, it just depends on how corrupt the courts are. I mean, literally, but I mean, and also, I mean, all lawyers, including the judge and barristers, solicitors, they're all a member of the Bar Association. And the Bar Association has got a monopoly on the licensing of the practicing of law. So nobody is going. They're basically all in this together, and they're the only function that they serve is to protect the interests of the City of London, which is the central bank, and that's literally the only purpose that they serve. They have no other purpose at all. They're not common law. They're operating on They're operating in maritime law, which one is unlawful itself, and the only codes that they're following are uniform commercial codes, UCC. So they're not following any common law. And again, they're keeping him in his maritime jurisdiction, which is Dr. Wright. He wouldn't allow him, to say, oh, whenever Craig referred to somebody by their given names, he was like, oh, you mean Mister? He was very, 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 very careful on that. So the whole thing is a complete farce. It's utterly unlawful.
Satoshi,
So who knows?
Are you paid by anyone to do what you do? Are you independent? Are you
I
independent?
wish.
What?
I wish I was paid, mate.
So you're
I spend
independent.
enough time doing it. I should
You're
be.
independent.
Yeah, totally.
And what is your I guess people would probably like, what is your motive? Because you're doing so much to defend the Bitcoin, the original Bitcoin protocol and the genuine Bitcoin. What is your motive?
I do not want to live in a totalitarian one world dictatorship. It is going to be outrageous, because then you just get, a certain group of people who have, eugenic motivations. Again, it's Hitler and his Nazi party all over again. Literally, eugenics trying to create a superior race. That's what's going to happen. If we have no choice, we have no freedom. And the only way that independent small businesses can survive and thrive is if we're using a true money. And it's literally, it's like this. So we either have a common money, so a commodity, a common money used by the people to create government that works for the people, or government will create currency to control the people. That is it. That is the only they're the only options available to us. And the only way you can commoditize data is by using the original protocol that Craig outlined and described in the Bitcoin white paper. And he had to let Bitcoin go through this neutral organic growth phase that scheduled to finish on the 1st of January 2020. So Blockstream had until then to securitize the network, which is what they did when they implemented SegWit. Because SegWit broke the chain of signatures, which removed common accountability and prevented the users of the network being accountable individually themselves. Because when you break the chain of signatures, it means that someone somewhere can do something that nobody else knows about, because that chain of signatures has been broken. And this is why we know that Craig was always going to reveal himself at some stage in the future, because all chains of signatures lead back to the Genesis block, which is where accountability lies. So Satoshi Nakamoto was always going to reveal his identity at some stage. It's essential for the network. So that's my justification.
Mehl, do you want to approve that someone's requesting to speak there? That's if they want to come up, feel free to add them in. And so Sirtoshi, back to your points here that you're making on on the network and the commodity side. Seems like you're the only one that has come up with this theory. Well, I don't know if you've got the elements of a digital commodity, right? You've brought
yeah.
And do you want to mention that? It's such an
well, yeah. I mean, it's really obvious and easy to understand how Craig has structured this network. So first of all, in order to make sure that there is no central point of authority, control, or failure, the network has to be globally distributed, and then each of those components who are sustaining the network have to be in economic competition with one another. Because without competition, you simply get collusion and centralization. And there is no other way to commonly, equally, and fairly distribute assets within a society, in an economy, without economic competition. If they're not being distributed economically, it means that someone somewhere is dishing them out and they've got complete control of it. So there's no other way to distribute Bitcoin around the world other than to have people compete for it. That's it. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, how do you remove accountability and responsibility from those operations who sustain the network, so that they're not responsible for it? onto the users? Well, you do that by ensuring that there's a signature attached to every single upload on the network. So accountability is moved from the miners, from those who are sustaining the network, onto the users of the network. And the users aren't sustaining the network, but the users are accountable themselves for how they use it, which takes responsibility off the miners. So all miners do is try and find SHA-256. That's it. The users of the network are responsible themselves for how they use it, because their digital signature is attached to every upload, and to ensure that the community itself can stamp out any bad actors and child trafficking and gun running and drug dealing and any negative things that they don't want in it. You have to have that chain of digital signatures, which allows people in the community to stamp out those bad actors if they want to spend the time and economic resources to do so, because that prevents a centralized, a central authority, a big brother kind of thing, being responsible for it, because the community is now responsible for it through this chain of digital signatures. So that's literally how it's structured. You've got an economically competitive, globally distributed foundation with a chain of digital signatures, which moves accountability onto the users of the network. And then after that, you just simply have unbounded scale, so that limitations and restrictions can't be manufactured and the network not be manipulated. You need a fixed token stroke asset supply, so that it can't be inflated or deflated by anybody and nobody controls it. And then you just need to make sure that all those elements I've just listed are locked, so that they don't change. And that means that anyone and everyone can build on the network, and it's permissionless for everyone. That is it. It's so simple.
Yeah, there was just yesterday, yesterday or Monday, there was Trump was on one of this podcasts with an influencer from TikTok, and he said that one of the problems that we have right now is we don't have a way to verify, we don't have a way to log honesty and transparency. Trump mentioned we don't have a way to do that right now, where we could log things, because these people, he said, in government, they just do stuff and we don't really know what they do. We have no way to verify and log all this stuff, so he's like identifying the problem that needs to be fixed. He's like, he said, we don't have a way yet, but he kind of made like, we don't have a way to do that yet, but he kind of hinted like,
can the people who run the world be so uninformed? I mean, seriously.
Well, it's just because they've been hoodwinked, So, we all know that Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer cash system, and it's Bitcoin that is the asset that's used as cash, that is actually used to economically sustain the network, because there's no central point of authority or control on it. But if you restrict it so that that token, that asset, cannot be used as a medium of exchange, then it can't be used to economically sustain the network. And if it can't be used to economically sustain the network pretty much can't be used for anything. And so, it's just the BS that the Blockstream crew have spun on everybody, and they had to do this before the Tulip Trust was returned to Craig in January, because the return of the Tulip Trust to Satoshi Nakamoto, i.e. Craig Wright, was meant to be the end of the neutral organic growth phase, because Craig will be like, well, nobody else could mine those coins aside from Satoshi Nakamoto, and they've been returned to me because I am Satoshi Nakamoto. So that was the whole point of the Tulip Trust, was to prove who he was. And so when they realized that he was going to do that in 2020, they were just like, oh shit, well, if people start using a money that's outside of the control of our central banking system, we lose control of everything, because all legal and political influence stems from economic power, which means we need to corrupt it before that happens. And the way you corrupt it is by breaking the chain of signatures, which is why they implemented SegWit in 2017 and then changed the narrative of store of value, digital gold, not many use it, hodl, 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 all that bullshit.
So I invited Matt up as well. Okay, Matt, you're up on stage now. Welcome, buddy. Good. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm trying to remain unemotional based on the news, and kind of just wait for more data, more information, more things to play out. But I did have a question for you, Gavin.
Yeah.
Since I missed the first half. So the consensus is basically that Craig Wright did not file the appeal. Is that the consensus?
Well, that's Artie Van Pelt's consensus, yes. And Copa, yes. That's their side, yeah. I mean, you got two sides, right? So Artie Van Pelt and Copa, yeah, that's what they've decided.
Okay. Well, I found an article because anyone can do this, but if you go on Google Alerts, you can set like a keyword or two, and every day or week you'll get notified when there's a new article based on that keyword. So I put Craig Wright, Judge Meller, Copa, those are my keywords. So every day I get an alert just for an update. And I found this article from a site called Protos.
Yeah, that's the one that's already been built. That's the one. Yeah. It seems like the best
Uh,
one.
It does, and there's one thing I wanted to point out is that the office noted that an appeal could still be filed if Wright submits an application for an extension of time.
Yeah, but
So,
where do
you know,
you, I mean,
if
I'm reading the art, so I'm on the, basically the article says this, right? It says, Craig Wright has not filed an appeal in the U court. He has 21 days. The UK judicial office, but where is this, where's this statement from the judicial office? Who was it? And where's the documents to show this? I don't see that.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lack of
Yeah.
transparency
I mean,
all
anybody
around.
could write that they talked to somebody at the, who'd you talk to? And where are show me the screenshots of something. Give me something. I mean, right now I don't see anything
Mhm.
other than Artie Van Pelt wrote this. That's all I'm seeing.
Well, if at least if that's the case, and Craig did not file the appeal by this deadline, and he could apply for an extension. Well, that's a good thing. I like what Crypto Spartacus brought up with the Joker and the Mortal Kombat, because it's totally in alignment with my thesis that the Super Bowl this year was scripted mostly around Bitcoin. I mean, obviously Jack Dorsey was there wearing the Satoshi Nirvana shirt, sitting next to Beyonce and Jay-Z. We know that they're putting it right in our faces, but if you look at the score, right before the game tied, like right before it went to overtime, was 19-19, which the mirror of that is 91, and that's the Phoenix. Well, that's the word Phoenix in the English ordinal cipher in Gematria. So that was the first thing that I decoded as I was watching the Super Bowl. But what was interesting is that the 49ers, the digital gold miners, right, they lost. And that was the second time they lost, because they lost in 2020 in the Super Bowl. So what's fascinating is that, looking at the charts, and for BTC, basically 49K is a really significant number. Looking at
Where are we at on
the
the
daily
charts now?
chart here. Well, right now for BTC, it's coming down, I think, to test support and see if there's more seller demand. It's just under 55K, but it was exactly on Thursday, January 11th. So that was the day that the spot BTC ETFs went live, and that was the top for BTC, just at 49,000. And then we had a 21% sell off, and shortly after that, we pumped all the way up to 74,000. And so just this Black Monday, BTC came down and hit that liquidity area right at 49,000. So I think that's a really symbolic and important place that we are here in time, and in the charts, and how this is playing out, because that's in alignment with the Mortal Kombat message of you may do tie game, or maybe it's a fake out, but then you win in overtime, or then you win in the appeal.
Some serious fake outs going on, man. You've got like this guy saying I appealed, then you've got all this news saying, oh no, he never appealed, right? I mean, a massive I guess it's a massive amount of information, on the news on the other side. Say, oh no, he never appealed, it's over.
Well, what's funny about it, that I've been wanting to point out, and this is a good opportunity, is that any press is good press at the end of the day, especially if it's free advertising.
Right.
So
We learned that from Trump, right?
yeah, he's the master of like using bad press to boost his brand. And I'm just looking at all these like these haters of BSV and True Bitcoin, just like posting Craig Wright's face all over the internet, his name, his face. I mean, at the end of the day, 99% of humanity has no idea who Craig Wright is, and that's a good thing to keep in the back of our minds. Like we are in somewhat of an echo chamber here, but that 1% is just like totally getting like programmed with who this guy is and all of the truths and realities he's brought to the table through these court cases, and you know, setting the precedent for what Bitcoin is and how it should operate within the legal system. So to me, like, this is all good, and it's all still building the brand that is Bitcoin. And it's really just coming down to a macro timing of a greater goal, which is what I would call the great work. I didn't come up with that, but that is like the new world order, basically, which is inevitable. You know, I mean, so this whole system from the age of Pisces is so outdated. The inequality is just off the charts, and it's inefficient. And now there's all these technologies beyond blockchain that are just meant to really change society for the better. So it's inevitable, but it's a long game, and it's going to take time to play out. And ultimately, what I think all of this is about, dragging things out, all the fake outs, it's all about price. And it's the one thing that most people don't like to talk about, and that's why I dig even deeper into charts and price, is because, you know, when you combine that with the fundamentals and the news events that are going on, you can really see what the smart money is doing. And you know,
What's the smart money doing?
well, they're strategically timing these news events and the court cases and everything that's going on with ultimate buying opportunities. Like right as the judgment was released a day early, well, actually not the judgment, but, you know, when Mehl first said what he said, just to kind of round things off, like that was your sell the news event. So everyone bought the rumor, BSV pumped to well over $100, and then they sold when that happened. And what that did was it, you know, it created a massive buying opportunity for, you know, for true Bitcoin. You know, like, and I always try to put myself in like Fidelity or BlackRock shoes. If I was Larry Fink, you know, where's the big opportunity? And we've been seeing it in this 5-month sideways range of swings that BTC's been having. All these institutions, you know, these are opportunities to just double your money before there's even price discovery. And all the while, you know, using those funds to accumulate more BSV would be the smart play, as this is generally the lowest the price has ever been, you know, in the last 6 years. You know, anything under $50 is probably looking really good to BlackRock, and whoever's on the inside. So that's what I look at. And in terms of price, I guess the last thing I could say is that the event on Monday, like all across the board, just it shows many signs that was the historical August flush out of the markets, you know, washing out any weak hands that are left before a continuation of a bull market, and some parabolic euphoria comes into the space. You marry that with Fed rate cuts, quantitative easing, you know, things like that. We could really see markets pick up at the end of August into the end of the year. So despite this news and the confusion we have around the appeal, I think generally BSV is in a very strong place for dollar cost averaging. I mean, not financial advice, but, you know, I don't see price like going down too much unless BTC wants to take one final move down to 44,000. Between 40 and 44K is absolutely in the cards between now and the Aquarius full moon on August 19th. And there's a lot of reasons for that that I'm still working on decoding, but that's what I'm looking out for. So overall, I think we're in a good spot despite the news. We need to wait for more confirmations of data, you know, but the best thing that, you know, the safest thing I can do or want to do is just, you know, accumulate an amount of BSV that I'm happy with if it goes to zero, and to not be too overexposed in this market. And then, of course, to take those funds off of, say, Rock Wallet or whatever exchange you can get this thing from, and you know, put that on Electrum SV, and then take that wallet address and back it up in a private trust that's between you and God. That's like I think the safest thing to do. And then just trade it like you would anything else. You know, if we're sitting waiting for the great flippening to happen and for the miners to switch and for Craig to be revealed as Satoshi, that's really risky. But if you're looking at it from the base level of like technical analysis and trades and charts, like if this market does push up, stocks included, into the end of the year, then I still have like a fair target of $500 per BSV, just to retest around the all-time high, as I believe most altcoins will do when we get this fifth wave to play out. So overall, I think we're in a good position, and I wish there was more transparency. I wish there was more honesty. Obviously, that's our goal with this technology, is to achieve that. But that's just not the case. So you got to be real discerning and careful of who you trust. There's a lot of really smart people that are involved in BSV. I mean, like the smartest people I know. And then there's some other really smart and affluent people I know that I've made well aware of what's going on through my research in these events, and they're still buying BTC and MicroStrategy shares, and it's just I don't know. This is the moment in history where it's like, will you be on the right side of the coin? And only time will tell. So playing it safe is the play for me. That's my opinion, at least.
Nice. I want to go over to Hector
I
here. He had his
just,
hand up. Mila, go ahead. But I
yeah,
want to ask Matt another question, but go ahead, Mila.
yeah, just before you get too far away from us or anything, I just wanted to ask why you suggesting Electrum instead of, for example, Senti?
Well, Sempi, I personally have a friend that has thousands of Bitcoin or BSV that are locked up on a Sempi wallet that he's yet to recover, and Lorian has been completely absent from truly supporting my friend with recovering these funds, and that's a red flag for me personally. Also, it's a wallet, it's unfortunately that's one of the things lacking in BSV, is like a really sound cold storage wallet. Electrum SV is like, even though BSV recommends it, it looks pretty outdated and pretty clunky. The UI looks a bit confusing, but to me that's the safest thing for now. That's why, you know.
Now there is there actually is a website now that's created. Now this conversation kind of came up with Crypto Rick a few months ago, where he mentioned on one of my podcasts that everybody should make sure they have the actual long key, not just a code of the numbers, not just the words. And there's wasn't any way to get that other than going to Electrum SV. But Gregory Ward, the freaking man, this guy built something called Sato Finder. Sato Finder, and it is a tool I have not that I'm sharing with people, because hopefully we could build little networks that people start trying it out and see if it works. But apparently, what it does is it tells you the seed phrase. It takes your seed phrase and you actually identify your long code for your private keys, and it gives that to you. So that way you can have it in a cold wallet. No matter what happens, if you have the long coded private key, it doesn't matter where it is. That's the theory. So if your seed phrase is no good, or you lose it, that you have your actual private key. It's called Sato Finder. What's on chain? Gregory Ward, SATO Finder. And
yeah, he's great. I've heard great things about Gregory Ward, and what Crypto Rick is referring to, he calls it the master private key. I don't know if that's
the master private key. Yeah,
because I haven't
exactly.
done that yet. But yeah,
that's it. So apparently this thing will allow you to get your master private key. That's what because I actually was getting into developers, and I said, hey, I need help figuring this out. And then the developers showed me, well, you know what? It's actually already been done. You can just use this. And I thought, okay, I haven't used it yet, so don't take my word that it's legit. But I mean, I would encourage anyone to test it out. Put a freaking 1 cent in there and see if it's legit or not. Don't make a mistake and put everything you own in there. Things are high risk with this stuff. So, Matt, what's the deal with this 36? I want to go to Hector, but I need to know what is the 36 all about? Why is 36 important? Apparently, at 36 days when they filed the case or the judgment, is that right, of the year? Or what was the 36? What's the relevance of that and the importance?
Yeah, the case with Copa, it was rescheduled to begin on the 36th day of the year, and that's and the BTC ETFs launched 36 years from the date of the Economist Phoenix cover. So the 36 is so important. And then when Biden, basically on paper, admitted he was not going to continue to run, he finally showed up like 5 days later on a video, which I watched a bit of. And one thing that stood out to me was he was talking about the sacred calls. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I've never heard, on the world stage, these politicians talk about a sacred cause. I'm like, God, what is sacred about what's actually happening on the world stage? But I guess it is. So I took it to the Gematria calculator, and I was like, no shit. It's literally sacred calls is 36 in reduction and 36 in Chaldean, just like Bitcoin is 36 in reduction. So the sacred calls is in my opinion, the Bitcoin biblical beast system or Phoenix beast system, which a lot of people feel a certain way about, because the Bible, I don't think people really understand it yet, and that's changing, but it's not all bad. It could be, but I'll tell you what. There's this video I saw yesterday that we should post in the nest, and it's this woman that was a scientist, pretty deep in the game, and now she's a whistleblower, and she talks about the human electromagnetic body, like our field is it's an electromagnetic system, and that there's all this military industrial complex, inspired technology that's been built
Background noise.
behind the scenes that is going to run side by side with Bitcoin as the blockchain, to process these Internet of Things micropayment transactions, for almost every carbon-based life form, right? And that, again, that 36 is important because 666 is the 36th triangular number, and a carbon-based life form is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So that's how it's really all the sacred calls being Bitcoin or the beast system is all connected. And that's why, like, the fact that the trial was rescheduled to start on the 36th day of this year, and now Craig's supposed to or did file the appeal on the 36th day of the second half of the year.
So August 5th is the 36th day, you're saying?
Yeah, yes, of Q3, the third quarter of the year. So that just shows me that it's all scripted. Most of what we see everywhere is propaganda, for lack of a better word. There are masters at the top that are manipulating how we should think and feel about ourselves and the world we live in, and that's okay. But as long as we check in with ourselves on that, and does that feel genuine? Does that align with my values as a human being? That's the distinction, because this is all too brilliantly scripted to be fully human, if I'm being transparent.
Divine somehow? It's divinely inspired, you think? You mean the numbers and how it's all lined up?
Yeah, it's all divine. This is all God's creation at the end of the day, the consciousness. But there are players in this game that are malevolent beings. Whereas human beings, I truly believe, real, fully human beings are benevolent in nature. I don't think they intend to hurt each other. We certainly would not be so divided if there were not other entities that had a high interest in creating that division for their sustenance and control.
Yeah.
So that's the point, is that this is truly all scripted.
Yeah.
And we're all being tested basically on our heart.
Someone I want to put a kind of a message out there to the universe to connect with is Smilaz Paradis. And he's got books written on some of the subject here. I met him up in Mount Shasta last summer in person, and he's based in Redondo Beach. And so we connected, but I haven't done a meeting with him or interview. But that guy has written a bunch of books on this subject about this connection and how it's all divine and integrating with the scriptures. He's done a lot of research on it, man. Smilaz Paradis. I'd love to learn more about him. So can we go over to Hector? He's been waiting patiently. He had his hand up earlier. If you're available now, Hector, we'd love to hear from you, buddy. How you doing?
Doing good. Just wanted to let you guys know. People are saying that the appeal hasn't been filed and whatnot, but what Craig wrote was that the application for appeal has been filed. So at least in the UK court, as what I've learned is you must file for an application to appeal and then get accepted or denied. And then you have 21 days after that approval is to file the actual appeal. And the form that would be required to make the application would be the form N161. So probably a proper question people should be asking is, has Craig filed his form N161, which would be the application for appeal?
So that's the first step then, it sounds like you're saying, which is this form M161. He has to file that in first, then they grant him permission. Right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So and you know, there's no way, is there any way for us to verify that docket that he's done that?
I haven't seen anything.
No.
But
I could never verify anything on the docket this whole case. So
yeah, it's just,
yeah.
I think that's and that would be more so the correct assumption. Like, yes, he didn't file an appeal. They're right, or whoever said that is right. But Craig never made the claim. Craig made the claim that he filed an application for the appeal, which could also be correct and is the proper step you need to do according to the UK High Court, is to file an application for appeal and then get approved or denied. And then and that was within 21 days of the judgment. And then after the judgment, after the approval process, you then have 21 additional days to file the actual appeal. So I guess to assume, I would probably assume that since he said application, to believe that the application was filed and also believe that there is no actual appeal yet.
Hector, what are your, if you could speculate, what would you think, what would you, in just an imaginary world, let's just say that it does get filed and he does appeal. What are the outcomes that could happen? Like what, mistrial / overturn the case? And what would the effect of that be?
Well, I guess the same idea is like people would, like initially with Miller, right? Miller initially denied Craig's claims, and then the appellate court overruled and said, no, there is some sort of basis here. And so I would assume the same thing could happen here. Like personally, what I saw during the trial was a very hypothetical, could have been possibly maybe from, if in the right circumstances, even Miller saying himself that the oddities of this being real would be very astronomical, because this would have to be the world's most unluckiest person or have some sort of huge reason as to why everyone's going at this guy. So, and I don't think Craig did himself any favors in the way he presented what he presented in the court. But if it is very questionable, especially with the Madden report, the Mehl conspiracy theories that she just threw out there and people wrote as law. So, and also we have the CAH overhang of him kind of just, muddying the waters. It doesn't make it really clear cut that this was the best effort or like a really, well done process, in my opinion.
Wasn't well done, as though like, you mean the Copa side, like it wasn't the cleanest judgment because of the Ager-Hannsen. Now we talked about this earlier about the Ager-Hannsen stuff, and the court ruled, he did make very clear determinations that Ager-Hannsen was not a bad actor. He was not responsible for these forgeries. That was determined. And he also took notice of the injunction that was filed with Ager-Hannsen in the other case in this, let's say on paragraph 67. So, I mean, what do you think would happen if there's a lot of motive on the other side, I guess, of this sticking and Craig Wright not appealing? What would happen if this case went back on appeal, Hector? What would that do?
There'd probably be more eyes on it this time. More people would be interested, like, oh shoot, it wasn't as clean as we thought it was. And then, like, there are a lot of financial products that are out there that have to put these as disclosures to say that this is a pending issue, a pending liability, like the BlackRock ETF, who's outlined this. So there is a lot of financial, I guess, on the line, like financial incentives on the line to see what happens or what are the outcomes of this. And probably more people would be more serious or take it more serious the second time around if what was found was not as clean as they expected. That's kind of how I would take it, and it would kind of be another legitimate stab or attempt to overthrow what is the idea of Bitcoin, right?
So are you hinting to the idea of like a mistrial where they say, hey, you guys got to do this whole thing over again?
Um, I guess I like you could like it is to me very questionable. Like if we're all relying on the Manor report and relying on these assumptive beliefs that what Meller would just conclude as this is the way Satoshi would do his way, like that to me struck me like really hit me like really weird. Like how does this person who is supposed to be this like objective third party know in any direction in which Satoshi would react to anything. He makes it in his statements that Satoshi would not do this way. If Satoshi were here, he would not act in the way that Craig is acting. He would not go and sue developers in the way Craig is suing developers. But we never had Satoshi Nakamoto come up on in the trial as a person and give their testimony to anything. So just the fact that this person is willing or able to give some sort of judgment in the character and the proper character of what Satoshi would do, that to me is already enough to like start questioning the entire judgment and like saying, well, there's obviously some bias here and some sort of preconceived notion as to the way you think someone should be acting, when instead you should be like, Craig didn't do these things and therefore Craig didn't prove anything. Craig is wrong. But using your backdrop as Satoshi, I think that's kind of not doesn't smell right, at least.
I searched the word Satoshi inside this judgment. It's used 440 times. So that's
And,
Meller's.
and someone else brought up something earlier, the idea of technobabble. That hit me really weird as well. Like I've never like I personally it's been rare outside of the crypto sphere hearing the and into the context of Craig Wright hearing the term technobabble usually. Right? It was always a shot at Craig Wright. Oh, look at this. He's always doing the technobabble. Always talking about technobabble. Look at him. Can't even make anything up. It's always technobabble, right? And for some reason it hit the lexicon of this judge who managed to say, "Oh yeah, technobabble," and you go look at all his other judgments, which are related to technology and stuff, and look at the judgments in general. I think, I can't like I think it was like on a single hand, if that, the number of times technobabble was even used in a judgment. That phrase occurring at all in UK judgments.
Yeah, he uses the word technobabble 10 times in the judgment. And he says, paragraph 510, denial dissembling and irrelevant technobabble. And then he cites a bunch of, he cites part of the transcript and he says, here's what Wright said, talking about hash functions, talking about hash one, Merkle trees, how that's defined as technobabble by the judge. I isn't that what Bitcoin is? Is that Merkle trees and hash functions? I don't know. It seems like, yeah, it's an interesting point. You got false technical excuses, technobabble 400. So he's saying he makes technical excuses throughout his testimony as technobabble. The court.
Yeah, if you just look up at bali.org or BAILII.org, if you search all the databases and search the term technobabble, there actually was only one result that has, which is the one we're talking about, that has the term technobabble in it in
No,
the
it's
entire
never
database.
been used before, you're saying.
In the UK court, no.
Wow.
As what we're seeing. So that's what struck me very odd, is like why didn't he choose words that were more aligned to what he usually says, right? Like, oh, this was not consistent, or this was whatever. He could have said anything, but this exact word, it was like, why would you say that way? It seems like you're getting like it was rubbed off on you somehow.
I was left with a clear impression that he was simply engaged in technobabble precisely because he was not able to put forward any coherent explanations for the forgeries which had been exposed, and yet he could not bring himself to accept that he was responsible for them. That's a paragraph. That's right at the beginning, paragraph 15. I hadn't even considered that, Hector. The technobabble thing part is, yeah, it's a really interesting, it's a very good point. How did the judge make such a big finding about this? I guess he's saying that excuse was not justified. I mean, it's a very interesting, and that was actually the Truth Machine. He wrote this article outlining all that. Truth Machine on Medium. Copa versus Satoshi Judgment, why Justice Miller got it wrong. Very detailed article there, Mila, that shows all the details, like cites everything in the case. Very well done.
Right. Where is it? Where are you seeing it?
It's on his X profile, Truth Machine, and it's pinned, I think, to his profile. That's where I saw it.
Isn't that the guy I see here? Well, I guess we all have a different layout of so I will click his profile and see if I find it.
Yeah. See, let's see.
Oh,
He's in the
if you're
space.
listening to us,
Yeah,
you
Truth
can
Machine.
share it
He's in there.
in
It
the
says
comments.
Truth Machine there. Oh, Alex Favel's
Yeah.
in the space. We should ask him to come up.
Is it the pinned comment? Is it the pinned comment?
Hold on, I'll be right back.
I see different things here.
Hey, what's
Yeah,
up, buddy?
Copa versus Satoshi Judgment. Why just
You are
something?
okay. Hold on. Posting the space right now. Like, probably you can come in and check it out. I got a freaking shitload of people on it, dude.
Sweet.
What
do you
We're just talking. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, if anybody else wants to, if anybody else, feel free to jump. Oh, Michael's here. More people have come in now. Michael's here. Michael Scott, Alex Fauvel. Let's see. Mehl, if you want to have anybody else wants to come up and say some things here, Jesse Blasio. I'll just do a quick summary on the space. Ultimately, that we know that the appeal, the application for appeal, like Hector clarified, is what's Dr. Wright is saying that he's been filed. What hasn't been filed is an appeal, and it was Artie Van Pelt that made the article here on what's called looks like Craig Wright failed to file an appeal. That was on protos.com. And so he's saying, there was no appeal filed, but we don't see any, I think the claim here is that there wasn't an appeal filed. That's right. It's the application for appeal that Wright is saying it's filed, and that's the proper procedure. So we don't have any verification either way, but it would sure be a stupid blunder to have him plan for all that time. What was it a month ago? He said he was going to file the appeal on August 5th. I mean, and then he posts that he's saying he did file it. So we've got to kind of assume the application for appeal was filed. So Amelia, does anybody else want to come up here that they're?
Yeah, Michael Scott, and for
bring
some
him up.
reason my button is not working. Can you, Casey, maybe can you accept the request, because mine seems to not want to accept right now. I don't know. Thanks.
I'll invite Michael Scott. Michael Scott, what's up, my man? Come up here. It's a great day. Alex Fauvel, my man in the Netherlands, straight from the Dutch islands. I want the Dutch masters out there where my buddy Ferry Corsten lives. Let's get Michael up here and Alex. I still haven't heard from Scott 13x369 BSV. Maybe he's just listening in today. I really want to ask him, see what's on his mind. So hi, buddy. Mitch just walked in here. So Alex, okay, Michael's up there now. No, Crypto Spartacus. Yeah, Michael Scott, you're up. What's up, buddy?
Hey, can you guys
now
hear me?
We can hear you. How you doing?
Cool. Hey, I'm doing good. I'm just got out of a few meetings, but just checking in real fast.
Yeah, you've been posting all about
as
this,
far as the
so
whole-
we've talked through the case a lot, but I mean, I'm just more about hearing what's on your mind. What do you think about?
Yeah. The whole. What I find funny is the whole AVP gaslighting is just. I mean, it's typical, but he said exactly what he said, and everything is consistent with that. So, application filed, it will take several days to process and to be published. So obviously, if a clerk is just looking at whatever, public record repository that everyone else has access to, again, I don't live in the UK, so I don't know how it works, but they're just going to say the same thing. They're not going to be able to see behind the scenes as far as stuff that's pending. So it's kind of ridiculous, but I take it for what he said. It's going to take a little bit to publish, and it is what it is. He on July 27th, they announced that he was going to be filing on August 5th. So he's been coordinating this for quite some time. So it's not like they just
what about the
picked
article
that date out
where
of a hat. I mean, they've been
where-
targeting that date.
what about the article where somebody said, "Oh, this law firm apparently say he didn't appeal," and how do we? I mean, do we have anything to support that?
He's not using that law firm,
Okay.
but he's
Okay.
not using the same law firm.
Yeah.
He fired them.
Yeah.
He's using a different law firm.
And we do. I mean, AV.
Because remember, the one that they chose was selected by CAH. So
Right. That's part of the
that
appeal grounds.
law firm didn't have his best interests.
So what do
Correct.
you think the effects?
So either way, it probably
case,
takes a week. I mean, honestly,
Michael, what would the effects be if this case goes back?
I believe there would be a likelihood that, I mean, there's definitely evidence that it would be overturned per precedent. In addition to now that there's evidence that Mehl was mingling with AVP's attorneys who aren't even assigned to the case and are actively working on litigation to try and rescind patents that have been awarded. Well, the funny thing is they're trying to connect identities that are in dispute on the one hand, but aren't in dispute on the other, meaning he's filing patents under his name, Craig Wright, that are being awarded. So there's nothing related to Satoshi. That would be
now? Are you talking about the
relevant? Yep.
The interview that I had with Mr. Pierce from
your interview.
UK, where
correct. So why is Mehl? Yeah, he's mingling with essentially counsel that's not involved. It's a conflict of interest, basically. So you have Copa, who's trying to win on grounds of the Open Patent Alliance, right? And then you have essentially another third-party attorney who's not on that case, who's involved in separate litigation, who's then mingling with that judge presiding over an identity case for Copa. That's a conflict of interest. He should have recused himself. So he's obviously corrupt. Again, the UK is a corrupt country, so I'm not really sure how it works. But and then regarding the technobabble, he's obviously being fed that word. I mean, that's the word that has been used actually specifically with the BTC community. It's not one that you see quite often.
I think Hector said it's never been used before in court.
Yeah, so he's just following who's paying him. But there's no doubt that he's corrupt, and again, he's already been overturned once. So
yeah,
we'll see.
We did talk about
his
that.
Attorneys,
and that was his overturning. We actually reviewed that, and Mr. Pierce messaged me today. He corrected me. It's not the database rights case that was overturned. It was actually let me just get the wording correct here. It was, hold on. What was the case that was overturned? Do you remember?
I think it was just I don't know, but
no, it wasn't database right. Here it is. Tufty the cat. He says one of the mix-ups that you had was that it wasn't the database rights case that was overturned. It was the file format case. So that's the correction.
Correct.
Mr. Pierce, so I was wrong about that. It was the file format case, not the database. But that case was overturned in this particular same exact action. It'd be interesting to see who he used to overturn that case on attorneys.
Well, then the funny thing is, so if you read the judgment, Judge Mehl said, well, he was selected because he was viewed as one of the leading technology, judicial, high-ranking, judges, but then subsequently he contradicts himself by saying, well, Bitcoin isn't
Michael, I'm getting a bad connection from you. Let me go over to Alex
Isn't
while you.
complex at all. He said that.
Michael, I'm getting a
verbatim. He said
bad.
Bitcoin is not complex at all.
I'm getting a bad connection from you, Michael. So you want to just
And
take a second here? I'm getting like kind of an in and out. So let's go to Alex Fauvel while you reconnect. What's up, Alex? Welcome to the stage, my man. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going, Gavin?
Good, man. Good to see you.
Good to speak to you again. Been a while.
It's been a minute, man. Yeah.
this
What's so?
case was
And Michael, hold that thought. We're not hearing what you're
very
saying. So,
easy to
Michael, Mila, could you mute
Sounds like
Michael?
he's not hearing us either.
Could you mute him, please, Mila? And then Michael, we'll come back to you once your connection, gets fixed. So, all right. So, Alex, okay, welcome, Mila. You got him muted. Okay.
There is no individual mute thing here.
Okay.
You can mute everybody.
Hold on. Okay, Michael, come back up when your connection's fixed. So, Alex, good to hear from you, buddy. Welcome up to the stage.
Cheers. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
You reported on this every day. So, what are your thoughts? That with this appeal process, grounds, effect. What's on your mind?
Well, I always will maintain the fact that Craig has a lot of grounds for appeal. I think he has taken that and that he's followed the procedure. It sounds like that it was an application to appeal. I think I saw some Reddit comments from Greg Maxwell because he's one of the defendants who'll be CC'd on a lot of the communications. So he will have more information than most people. It sounds like what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to CC everyone into communication with court. I don't know whether this appeal application is part of that procedure. I actually doubt it because you don't necessarily want to reveal everything about your appeal to the other side until the courts have justified whether that appeal stands or not, whether it's even debatable. Because otherwise you're just wasting time and money of everyone more. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that appeal is going through. I do have in the back of my mind a niggling sort of thing of Christian Egar Hansen was renowned for promising to represent people and then failing to file things on time. And then, of course, that being a big issue.
You mean in other cases with Ager-Hannsen?
Play like that's going on as well. But I think that it's probably just the application to appeal. And yeah, that takes time because that appeal might be very long. I don't know what the form is. I've never done that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, normally on an appeal, you're going to notice by mail everybody in the case. So if you file a notice, I mean, in California, if you file a notice of appeal, then you would send everybody by mail, U.S. mail, a copy of your notice. It takes, 3 to 5 days to get there. They would get a copy. So that's how we do it out here. I don't know how it would work there, but normally they would notice people. But if Greg Maxwell didn't get a copy of the notice, and then that's what he's saying, I'd still say it's a little bit early for him to say he didn't get a copy because it should take about 5 days at least here in California.
Yeah, I mean, I again don't know how the appeals process works, but I imagine if one of the things that you appeal means that you're no longer targeting someone on the other side, then are they still included? I don't know.
Are they still included? How? What do you mean?
Well, are they still included in the notice of appeal if you're not contesting things that affect their case? So maybe the appeal would be, well, I'm appealing this section of the case and that judgment, that ruling, but that doesn't necessarily affect everyone. But I would think with this case, that it affects everyone.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, it could be a specific thing he's appealing. I mean, I think ultimately what he's appealing is the identity issue. So, but it's unlikely that he's providing a bunch of argument in the application. He's saying, I want to apply for appeal. Please let me do so. Paying the fees, paying his attorneys for a retainer. And one of the things about the skin in the game on this, because this guy, it looks like he's had to pay $6 million on the case. Looks like that's the amount, plus whatever he paid to his attorneys initially to retain them. Plus he's got to pay I'd say an estimate of about £1 million, maybe 1.1 million pounds for this appeal process just to get out of the gates. So how much was his attorney? How much were he, not to say the $6 million paid to the court, plus his attorney fees? He's probably about 10 million pounds.
Is he getting these retainers back after the lawyers drop out? Because he's been through a lot of lawyers now.
No, he doesn't get the retainers
Because
back.
then well, then that increases the costs even more, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, my point, the point though, Alex, is like, where the heck's he getting all this money from? Because the guy, he makes a salary he made a salary at nChain of what, a couple $100,000 a year. How come he's so rich?
That's a good question.
Because he's Satoshi.
That's
There we go.
Somebody had to say it. Satoshi had to say it, huh? Hey, Satoshi, what have you been following? What's up with all the coins that were the Satoshi coins that have been selling and liquidating?
I mean, yeah, I've been watching them, but we can speculate till the cows come home. I've no idea. I've no idea who's doing it or what, but watch this space.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think's going to happen? I mean, what sort of thoughts do you have, Satoshi? I mean, looks like we got that you want to add to here.
What in relation to what, the court case or BSV in general or Terranode or what? I
mean, well, yeah, well, I guess those are part of the motives. I mean, why is the opposition so strong here? Why is the opposition so strong to defeat this guy?
I mean, well, they're they're basically they're the front line of the central bank's attempt at keeping control of the financial system, of which they're perpetrating securities fraud on everybody ever since the Nixon shock, 15th of August 1971. There's nothing they can't buy. There's nothing they can't afford. There's no politician they can't bribe. I mean, they own the city of London. I mean, this is this is literally David versus Goliath. The clash of the titans. This is literally the case that is going to, well, not even the case, but this is part of the whole. What's the word? Act, if you like, as to whether or not we end up in a global totalitarian dystopia, or whether or not we live as free men and women.
So it's you think there's that much on the line here?
Yeah, absolutely. This lot have been at this installation of a totalitarian one world government for thousands of years, mate. Thousands of years. Literally, I've traced the origins right back to the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel 15:3, that was written 1028 BC. And then after that, you've got the literature from Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini outlining how 3 world wars would be required to bring about a totalitarian one world government and new world order. And the First and Second World War were literally right on cue and exactly as he outlined they should be back in 15th of August 1871. First World War started in 1914. So that was like long time after. And then obviously that letter, the release of that letter, correlates to the Nixon shock. So effectively, like Henry Kissinger said, who controls money controls the world. They'd effectively achieved Albert Pike's desire of a one world government by basically getting control of the money supply, because the Second World War was orchestrated purely to extract all the gold from the European countries to then bring about the Bretton Woods Agreement, which is where all the European countries would have their currencies backed by the US dollar because the US dollar had all the gold. And then the Nixon shock removed gold from the US dollar, turning it all into securities fraud. So now you've got a currency that is now no longer competitive to any other country's currencies because it's the reserve currency, giving a very small group of people unlimited economic power. Which is why they're trying to create this third world war now. So yeah, and if you listen to Joe Rogan's interview with Peter McCullough about COVID, and check this out, everybody knows about COVID. COVID was first outlined and described and planned in the SPARS pandemic that was published on the 31st of October. So again, anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. On
Can we
the
talk about
31st
Craig?
well, just quickly. So that was
A few, as far as like the quality of evidence provided by Craig, like regardless of the reason, do you think he provided indisputable proof that he is Satoshi? And if you do think that, wouldn't it follow that the appeal process will be pretty straightforward with multiple judges reviewing it, and it'll be pretty embarrassing to Meller to be overturned and made to look like a fool, and to add to that point, not only like will his decision be made to look like a fool, but he also took this indisputable evidence that everybody else will see, and he turned it into a CPS referral for not only Craig but also some of Craig's witnesses. Like that seems like I think you'd have to believe the entire judicial system is corrupt.
So what?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's Satoshi's point, right? It's what
Oh,
is
no,
the?
that's not. I'm telling you the well, I don't know what happened in the United States, but in the United Kingdom, the entire legal system was corrupted on the 1st of January 1973. So
And isn't that? But this is the legal system that Craig wants to pin his entire legacy on.
Well, I mean, well, the thing is though, this avenue of proving who he is had to be explored because it's it's the proper way to do things. So this opportunity always had to be taken first. However, when you were saying, did he prove himself beyond a reasonable doubt? Well, that's not what was required. It was Copa who brought this case against Craig. Craig was the defendant in the Copa case, and therefore Copa needed and should have provided an alternative for who Satoshi Nakamoto was, and they failed. They failed to do that. So yeah, Craig should have won this hands down.
Joe?
I was hoping to get some more perspectives of if anybody has one as far as like, was there proof?
Well,
was it satisfactory?
Alex, yeah, please.
I think that for any reasonable person that understands the issue at hand, but also the complexities of the truth of that, I would say that it was very compelling. Is it indisputable? No, I don't think it is. But that's not enough to go to the extreme that Mehl has. In the if Mehl wanted to, he could have dug in on a number of topics, I guess, a bit more, or allowed. I don't know. Maybe the lawyers just didn't get it over the line because they were expecting some piece of exculpatory evidence or something. But someone said Craig's pinning his hopes on these law courts that have been corrupted potentially. I would say that no, he's not. He's pinning it on common law and natural law more than any individual court system, I would say. Just because there are very many ways that he could prove that he's Satoshi if he is Satoshi. And he's refusing to do all of them other than just the way he wants it to be done and in the time he wants it to be done. but I think a lot of that is giving as many people as possible opportunity to recognize the truth before pulling that trigger. But that trigger might end up be something like, he just wins this on an appeal. I guess a lot of us in this room are just waiting for that trigger to be pulled, but it's his to pull whenever he wants, and I guess we're waiting for it, and the venue, because this court case still isn't the end of everything. I doubt the CPS thing is going to be going through, but nChain will still be around even without Craig, and they're the ones with all the IP.
Okay, I added you back up, Casey. I added who else up here? Yeah, feel free to raise your hand if you want to jump in on this, and so we can, build the conversation. Ultimately, I think what Joe was asking about was, did Craig put his best case forward? I think that would be a hard no. That would be a hard no. But then it's really a question of like the possession, right? Are you talking about the whole misunderstanding with this case is the
but Craig couldn't put
versus the ownership aspect. Go ahead.
Craig wouldn't be able to put his best evidence forward because they weren't allowing witness examination from
True.
their counsel.
Yeah,
it was the whole case was based on cross-examination, so no evidence was ever going to come out in that. It was an absolute piece of shite.
Yeah. Okay, let's go over to Emmanuel. You're up, buddy.
Yeah.
Man.
Hello, everyone. Ciao, Gavin. I want just to throw out my thoughts about this. Still waiting, of course, for the confirmation if this filing had happened or not or whatever. But in my opinion, if we, the people, are still waiting for the court, which now we know, at least Sirtoshi knows and can explain you that the court is a private system and they're not looking after the justice and the truth, but they are looking their own interests. So even after the filing, I see very difficult that the rule will change and that this actual court system will declare Craig Wright as Satoshi. And if that happens, it will be even worse because it will be the confirmation that we're believing that, we are waiting for that, we are betting on that. So we are telling the actual system, yes, please rule again for us, because we are not able to decide fucking nothing. We are not able to make PSV work. We are just waiting for your ruling, so our numbers will go up, and then eventually we'll have money to develop something. I stop here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Emmanuel, for the little comments there. We appreciate it. Let's go over to Matt over there. Be Love Be You. You had your hand up as well, buddy. What's on your mind?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add that it's not time from what I can see. It's in our interview we did a while back, Gavin, I mentioned that BTC could very well be the thing that pops the everything bubble, and this great flippening and revealing of who is Satoshi. And so the results of that event would be catastrophic for all markets. So that's just not something the globalist or anyone, including probably Craig Wright, is going to just willy-nilly do. So the timing's really important, and from what I can see in the charts, it's looking a bit frothy for the indices, and even BTC struggling to break above 70K, and a potential macro triple top for BTC. Yeah, it's looking pretty toppy, but I don't think the top is in. Personally, I think we've got at least till the end of the year for things to rip through and have one more flush out of the market now, and then these bigger players will be ready to sell their positions at large, and then a new cycle begins. So I don't think any of this is going to be timed to happen until the end of the cycle plays out. So really eagerly waiting to see where this appeal lands in terms of if the application gets accepted, and when is the hearing going to be, or retrial, and then we'll have a better timeline of where that lines up in the numbers, the astrology, and especially how that relates to the overall market cycle. But that's just when you're considering, did Craig have enough evidence, to really support his claim? I don't even think it's about that. And that's just my opinion zooming out. I think this is just a big game of chess and politics, and money. It's ultimately about the core issue of money. It's not the root of all evil, but it's definitely the root of most of the world's problems. Is like Sirtoshi's been saying, is humanity really needs a sound money, for real free market capitalism and productivity to take place. You know, um, so something to
Nice.
consider.
So I'm gonna just set kind of a timeline here at the top of the hour for wrapping this space up. So if we could kind of start winding down in the last 15 minutes, Mila, if that's
We got Bitcoin broadcast just came in and pulled up a black hand. Okay.
Bitcoin broadcast. What's up, buddy? Over to you.
Brown
Hey
hand.
guys, thank you. Yeah, so I've been listening, and I think there are a lot of great arguments on both sides and stuff. But I think we're really, if we are going to call ourselves like a community, I think we're at a time where we need to look at like appointing a new charismatic leader. We keep being stuck in this circle, like a loop of going back to Craig, waiting for Craig to do something, waiting for the appeal, waiting for the next court case. This is just going too slow. Like everything is too focused on one person. And I think everyone who still today think that Craig is Satoshi Nakamoto really need to start looking at what is beyond Craig. Like, there's so much we can learn from Nazi Germany. And I think we should really start looking at what is a characteristic leader, first of all, and how do we work towards private property rights and all these things on chain.
That's a very unique insight here, my friend. So you're saying that, look past it, and see on the private property rights. Can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, how do we do that? Mila?
Yeah. I don't know. But I would add to that this old idea of someone leader, just like someone messiah. I mean, come on, that's
Right. No,
that's
it's
nonsense. There is not one person that is able to possess all these things in one that is needed. So you need like a team of leaders, right? And then real leadership is something that makes others off and on co-lead, because it is able to sort of point out, if you will, let's just say for now, the skills, the different skills that are in everybody, right? A true leader is able to identify, right, who else around has what, and bring that out. So there's no way that we can have just one leader and one. This is nonsense, old nonsense. We need to get over it.
definitely. I think that sounds like his point, and Bitcoin Broadcast's point, which was well taken. That we shouldn't have one leader. We shouldn't just put our faith in one person, and this should be, a community-driven effort. I think that's kind of the point he's making. So it's well taken. What looks like, Tom, you've got your hand up there, buddy. First time on stage.
Yeah.
First time
Hey,
caller.
I just wanted to say, I think it's also like building on Emmanuel's point and the Bitcoin broadcast's point that, it's really important to think, I think finding the community around you of people related to an association of, you guys work on BSV, you guys like BSV, like meetup groups, just even in your area, you know what I mean? I think physically putting in the work, like using it when you can, I think that's a big aspect of driving forward too. Along with talking about it, I think if we find people close in our areas, and we make this kind of like a thing that we do weekly, like we already do, we already talk to each other, and everything. That's a huge part of like what is going to create this network, and be what it is just, I think finding people in, your area is a really good, and meeting people, you get interactions, you create so many relationships off of stuff like that, you know what I mean? And then things can move forward in so many different directions, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, we could all hop on here on the spaces, but that, it does go just so far, you know what I mean? And there is a physical aspect to this, where we are like, got to interact with, our communities and stuff like that, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to get back to center, maybe even touch grass a little bit and be like, all right, like what about where I live? What about the businesses that I use? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a
the
really
key.
big.
I mean, ultimately it was that personal connection that did it for me. That was it. It wasn't until I actually met people, Jimmy Wynn, when he came to San Francisco Bay Area, Xiaowei Lu, and then flying out to Dubai, flying into London, meeting all these people, meeting a lot of these people on stage here in person, knowing most of these people on stage, I know in person, so a lot of people in the audience, I know in person. So it's huge, man. It's a huge personal connection. That person element is absolutely critical, dude. I think Mila talks about that the most. So
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Tom. So as we're winding down with 10 minutes to go, let's go on over. I got Crypto Spartacus. Your hand is up or isn't up? I'm not sure if it is. Why don't we, no? Why don't we just go around then and see what we can say in closing here? If you want to start with you, Casey, you're the first, my first to my right here. We've got like say 10 minutes to go. Go ahead.
We got one hand up. Cub.
Who?
Cub.
Oh, okay. We haven't heard from Cub. Can you blockchain? You're up, buddy. Floor is yours. How you doing?
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I put the hand up because I heard you wanted to wrap it up, so I thought I'd just jump in quickly and wanted to support what both Tom and Bitcoin Broadcast there were saying, and also other things that have been said, but just particularly what they said about a community. And also to touch on this charisma, and Smila mentioned it, but I think what Bitcoin Broadcast was saying is more people need to step up, and the way I would frame it sort of as an ex-sociologist is there's capped charisma, there's covered charismas, and you hear people come with their voices. I think there's more of that needed. And the other thing, Gavin, coming to you is because we talked earlier in a space, and I was quite active during the trial as well, and taking a transcription. Is we talked about getting a calendar of some kind, a calendar of events. There's a number of different, let's say, communities, organizations, companies as well, that are active in the BSV ecosystem space. And in my view, as a sociologist, but I would say in this case as a communications observation, is they're not coordinated in the sense of let's get the schedule sort of lined up so people can go to the events that are sort of set up for them. They can be made aware of it. They can sort of go to that bulletin board schedule place where the information is, right? So that would just be one thing I would reiterate the importance of. And then also this new project by One Set Ordinals, I very much, because I've said it in a couple other spaces too, it's for me one of the most important suggestions of what they're working on, and it can overlap with other projects going in parallel. But that can bring the ecosystem together by really kind of unpacking the history and of value for onboarding newbies, and then certainly have a section and a part of the conversation AI on the trial itself and on the appeal as well. So all that will go in there in its own way. So just dropping that off, I know you're going to wanted to close it on up here, but this supports things that other people have said. And we had a space a bit earlier today, so I hope more people will come to it in future events, that I really gets on this community versus selfish mining, being alone. I think there is that sort of community aspect that can be filled in too. So I think communications.
Dude,
So thanks.
community is so key, Cub. I mean, that's it, man. We got to have this community, organic grassroots and a calendar of events would be great. The whole how, it just comes down to how, time, money. That's really where we're lacking, where we're just here organically grassroots, where like I have certain abilities and skills, but I'm just one dude in California, so I don't have all, so we got to really come together. And yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. We put some of these things out there. And Mila.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. That's definitely a topic to start talking about, to start communicating about, dusting up, ideas and how we can do it in the different places in the world that we're in. I was thinking about that, funny enough, these past days. Yeah, that's definitely an important topic because, of course, I mean, in person, right? People connecting in person, that's just so important. That is so, so important, especially around this topic because there is so much fear around it. And so it's necessary. Yeah. And to that, I will add before you do the round, I heard that you were requesting the song when I came in late, so I have it ready if you want to have it at the end of the space.
Oh, I do. Yeah, let's do that. But before we go to the song, let's go around here and see. Okay, Matt, let's go on over to you in closing if you have anything to add, and then Sirtoshi.
Yeah, sure. I totally agree with Cub and the Bitcoin broadcast and Manuel. Community is going to be key. What I can say is I've done a lot of these things myself. I think we're all moving in this direction and seeking the same solutions and resolutions. So I've put my stamp on what I think that is the overarching message and space where a community can actually get behind. And that's ageofaquarius.org. And so if you look at the US dollar, it says there in Latin Novus Order Seclorum, which means new order of the ages. So, I've already, kind of decided, at least for me, and now I'm willing to let the market decide, but that BSV is the real Bitcoin, and that is the infrastructure that, I think we as a humanity should build out a platform that interfaces with the Bitcoin blockchain on ageofaquarius.org. And I've got a whole roadmap and all kinds of things going and a team that's growing. To me, it just comes down to money and funding. And, good luck trying to find investment for anyone that wants to actually build on BSV. It's been very challenging for me. And that's why I've taken the leadership role myself of kind of stepping down, and I'll be on these spaces and I'll make a post here and there just to share my encouragement and research, of my conviction on this technology and where we're at in time. But overall, my leadership decision was to step down from a place of leadership for a time and focus on the money game, focus on the charts, focus on the price action. And it's been painful for me because my heart's not totally in that, but I'm just trying to be responsible and just figure out, all right, how am I going to generate the resources to pay a team to build this out? So that, I'm basically what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm working on that. I feel the need that everyone here feels. And if you feel that you have a bigger message than that, and you want to build a platform around it and garner community, the floor is yours. And, Bitcoiners, it's all about helping Bitcoiners. Everyone who succeeds in Bitcoin helps the next guy and gal succeed on Bitcoin. So competition is welcome and it's healthy. And that's what I love about Bitcoin.
Nice. I love it, Matt. Thanks for all you add and all you do here with the what you're adding the value. Really appreciate it. Your words of wisdom are well taken. Let's go over to Sirtoshi, who's added a lot of value here all today and just nonstop. And he's confirmed that he's independent. You're not hired by the deep state, Sirtoshi. They didn't pay you.
No, not hired by anything like that. But yeah, what I would say is that the reason communities are going to be really are going to be needed in the future is because there is going to be such a vacuum of knowledge. Because everybody's been told that nobody knows about the SegWit fraud. And again, I mean, it's the same people who have committed securities fraud with that orchestrated the Nixon shock. That have corrupted BTC by segregating the digital signatures from the transaction data. They're going to have, and again, it's all fraud, it's all deception. So all these people that have got millions and billions of dollars and their life savings. I mean, I know people that have sold literally everything they've got and put it into BTC. And the miners, who are the largest bag holders of these coins, they need to economically sustain their mining operations. So when the likes of Terranode comes on and the miners are just like, well, hold on a minute, the block reward continues to get going, continues to get cut in half until it goes down to zero. You know, it says clearly in the white paper that we need we need a fee subsidy, a block fee subsidy to surpass the block reward when the time comes in order to sustain our mining operations. Right. Well, where are the most transactions? Oh shit, we've made a massive mistake. You know, and there's only like what $5 million worth of BSV on the market. You know, I mean, the price could go absolutely astronomical, and the miners just simply flash it, flick their hash rate over. Everybody's desperate to get out. Literally, BTC could go to zero in a heartbeat, mate. It's going to be absolutely devastating. But what we need to do is pick as many of these people up as we can, because they're going to be like, what the hell just happened? You know, and there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of people with sore heads, but also a lot of truthers who are just like, look, you know, the government is corrupt, the economy is going to shit, they're driving us into the ground, you know, the businesses are going bust and all this. How can we get out of this? Well, Bitcoin is the answer. But then they'll be like, well, Bitcoin's just gone to zero. No, it hasn't. That was a SegWit protocol. That was an alternative protocol that they colluded with the exchanges to list as BTC, which took the market price with it. But the miners know that they had to change their mining algorithm when SegWit was implemented. They know they've changed. BSV is the only implementation of Bitcoin that didn't need the miners to change their mining algorithms.
Nice. Thank you, Satoshi. Words of wisdom for everyone. All right, my friend from the Netherlands, Dutch master Alex Fauvel. Any thoughts, words of wisdom here on the way out?
Yeah, first words of wisdom. I don't speak Dutch, but the Dutch like it if you do. Yeah, I agree with Satoshi. You know, like the whole SegWit thing is very difficult to explain, and we do need to try and educate people before it goes wrong. But that takes a lot of effort and work to do. You know, there's Satoshi's daily updates are great. I think most of us watch them. Yours as well, Gavin. But there needs to be like a more prepared piece of propaganda, as it were, like Peter Todd's. But the thing is, because ours actually has to make sense, it takes a lot longer to explain in a way that people can relate to. But yeah, no, I think things are going to be moving in the right direction once people see what Terranode is actually capable of. Because 5 million transactions per second is 50 transactions per person for the entire world every day, which
Really
is more than
mind-blowing.
enough.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah,
right.
we're just waiting for the rest of it to fall into place. That's all I've got to say, really.
Right on, man. All right, great. Let's go over to Crypto Spartacus. Buddy, you still with us? Our man up in Canada.
Yeah, I'm still here.
So in closing,
Sorry, just a little distracted. My son is distracting me.
Yeah, I just thought I'd go to you in closing. If you have any final words you want to add.
I don't know. I'm just eagerly awaiting official confirmation of the application to appeal being filed, and then I guess I won't really have a lot to say until I've actually read that document to see what angle Craig is approaching this from.
Yeah. We're all waiting for that, my man. Definitely. That's going to be exciting. Okay, Cub, back over to you. Can you blockchain? Any
Well, I just jumped in late. Yeah, we'll come and join us tomorrow noon. It actually isn't up posted yet, so I got to get those out a bit earlier. But we've been doing the Tuesdays and Thursdays noon here Eastern time. I'm up in Canada, I think, quite near to Crypto Spartacus, but not too far. And also see One Love here. But it's obviously global. We're trying to get it to so more people can fit on the timeline. And we want to get it to be more discussing hugging or shrugging the world, and Bitcoin and blockchain are a way of doing that. And to me, it was a way. I used to be an academic coming out of that. I look at the blockchain and Bitcoin academically as a financial instrument rather than as an investor per se. But the potential for us to collaborate and coordinate with others even coming back to what Emmanuel said in his way, to get the people more activated in it, it's like Alex said too, it's the education, which can be long and boring. My opinion is let's offboard as much as we can of that to these AIs that are being built and trained, and let people fuss around with that while we go ahead and build, and while we go ahead and network and get new partnerships and people that can invest in the teams that are building and bring forward the ideas. And so if there can be spaces where, like what Project Babbage is doing with their new Connect thing, can bring the people who want to build together with the investors and the business modelers, that's, I think, the best way forward. So going on to what are the things that Bitcoin Progress said are beyond the trial itself and what's going to happen with Craig and the appeal, I think that's where the rest of the community / ecosystem needs to be focusing its efforts. So I'm glad to join with others and open.
Right on. Thank you, Cub. Love what you're doing, my man. Let's go over to Emmanuel, the politicator.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Gavin, for your commitment, for what you're doing here on YouTube daily. You're always active and speaking and talking about BSV. So really, thank you. And as well, the others, Sirtoshi and whoever is contributing for this. But what I want to say that to me, Bitcoin is at year 0. Yeah, we're starting now. And the most important thing about Bitcoin still needs to be done, in my opinion. We are on the right path, I can say, and but it's all up to us all, and we don't know yet who will be there at the right moment, the right time. But I know that we need to build this, because as a public monetary platform, there must be a public that is in control of their public platform. So thank you very much.
Emmanuel, nice closing there. So, all right. Well, I'm going to say, everyone wish happy birthday to Casey Nicole. She's at a pool party with her kids over there at her, at her little birthday party. That's her birthday party she's having. She just texted me, so she's not coming back on, but she's listening in. Happy birthday, Casey Nicole. Appreciate what you're doing. And everybody else who tuned in, thank you. We summarized the options on appeal with what's happening, whether the application of appeal was filed or not. We don't have any proof one way or the other than we've got what Craig said, that he applied for appeal, then Artie Van Pelt in his blog saying that he didn't. But ultimately, on the appealable grounds, we went through the Ager-Hannsen interference. We went through some of the expert witnesses and the rebuttal evidence not being rebutted on Craig Wright's side. And then some of the speakers came up, including Joe, said, did Craig Wright actually make a very good case? And ultimately, really, is that what's going to be ruled on appeal or not? I don't know. The law is very technical. It's not necessarily what we think about in the substantive part of sometimes that we see. And it usually comes down to a technicality. And that's how I'm seeing this going back, is on technicalities. So that's just my humble opinion from a guy, California, who's not an attorney, but I did follow this case. So, all right, Mila, any last closing words before we close?
I do have some bit of ideas that I'm gonna write down and then share on my Twitter for how we could get something going without funding. Perhaps that's something to talk about. So I'm gonna try to write it down shortly what's on my mind, and I'm gonna share it. And then I have a question. Should it be with or without the poem, the song?
Oh, what you're saying, the song plays the poem in it?
Yeah, you mentioned the poem earlier, so I got them both lined up.
Is it the same amount of time?
Well, no, I mean, first you have the poem for a few minutes and then the song comes, but I can also just play the song. So that's up to you.
No, I'd say let's play the song. Let's hear it in closing.
All right.
Blast it.
Okay.
Pump that song. All right, everybody, we'll see you at the top, and we'll close on that. We're going to go ahead and just have some closing music here from Mila's DJ booth there up in the Alpine Alps and the mountains from the clouds. Mila? Louder.
Okay, here it comes.
All for one, beating what's kind of fun. We got BSV, 4-5, the evil ones can't hide. 666, they crave a loose fix. 7-8, but it's too late. And 9, they're too far behind. 10, they'll never ever rule again. We got 1, digital gun. 2, 3, dead fiat. 4, 5, 6, we don't need tricks. 7, 8, thank Nakamoto. Number 9, we're no longer blind. And 10, hear the chorus, my friend. Your data is for you to own on PSV. Every bit that you have sown, yeah, you'll be free. Your data is for you to own, have the power. Every bit that you have sown, grow it by the hour. We got 1, digital gun. 2, 3, dead fiat. 4, 5, 6, we don't need any tricks. 7, 8, thank you Nakamoto. Number 9, we're no longer blind. And 10, we do the chorus again. Your data is for you to own on PSV. Every bit that you have sown, yeah, you'll be free. Your data is for you to own, have the power. Every bit that you have sown, grow it by the hour. 1, 2, Craig comes for you. 2, 3, but you still won't see. 4, 5, you take a Bitcoin dive. And 6, you need a brain fix. Siete, ocho, he's Satoshi Nakamoto. And 9, he's all anti-crime. He's a 10, now do the chorus again. Your data is for you to own on PSV. Every bit that you have sown, yeah, you'll be free. Your data is for you to own, have the power. Every bit that you have sown, grow it by the hour. Who cares if the world is flat or spun? I'm telling you, blockchain is one. We got 1, digital gun. 2, 3, dead fiat. 4, 5, 6, we don't need any tricks. 7, 8, thank you Nakamoto. Number 9, we're no longer blind. And 10, we do the chorus again. Your data is for you to own on PSV. Every bit that you have sown, yeah, you'll be free. Your data is for you to own, have the power. Every bit that you have sown, grow it by the hour.